All right, guys, welcome back to the California Investment Forum post-lunch extravaganza. But right now I have the pleasure of introducing Dr. Laura Lee. Dr. Lee is a genetics PhD from Johns Hopkins. She has a research and clinical genetics background. Formerly at Children's Hospital LA, where we have some mutual colleagues, as well as Illumina, she now leads Breakthrough Genomics. They specialize in cancer screening and rare disease diagnosis with AI. She is the recipient of the Woman of Achievement Award in 2017, is going to be here to share more on how AI-powered precision medicine can affect our world.
Thank you, Dan, for your kind introduction. And good afternoon, everyone. And I hope you have a great lunch. And so I want to thank California Investment Forum to give me this opportunity to talk about AI part in precision medicine. And I'm Laura Lee from Breakthrough Genomics. So precision medicine. So what is a precision medicine? So precision medicine is a new approach to healthcare that involves tailoring the medical treatment and prevention strategies based on the individual genetic makeup and also their environment and their lifestyles. And the goal of like precision medicine is to target, to give the right treatment to the right people at the right timing. So for example, that in the United States, there are around 100,000 people diagnosed with a colon cancer like each year. And so out of all these colon cancer patients, although they have the colon cancer, and the cause for each individual's colon cancer is different. So like before, for traditional medicine, the doctor will give the same treatment for all these like colon cancer patients. But for precision medicine, the doctor can do the blood test, urine test, and genetic test, and provide the tailored treatment for each individual person based on the like genetic profile of their colon cancer. So to achieve the best like treatment outcome. So AI in precision medicine is not new, and AI is not new either. But you know, like since 2022, the ChatGPT is launched, and AI become a buzzword. And I guess because of the general public like realize the artificial intelligence is can be like similar, can behave similar as like human intelligence. And so ChatGPT, you can see the evidence that ChatGPT passed the US like medical license exam, and also it can pass the bar exam and with top 10%. And also ChatGPT can pass the SAT reading and writing exam and with top 7%. So it's really like we can see that the artificial intelligence can perform like similar as a human intelligence, or in specific area is even better. So like soon in few years, the artificial intelligence will pass human intelligence, and so it will be very interesting to see how the world will change. So here's the doctor bot, and I think it will not be a dream so far away, and it probably can come sooner than you think. So the AI in precision medicine is not new, as I said, and in 2021, there are already $1.3 billion expended in precision medicine, like in AI field, and also the growth rate is 27%, yeah, like each year. So with the exciting advancement in AI field, I think there will be like even like faster growth in this field. So AI in precision medicine can be like characterized by technology, by application, also by users. So technology that they're like machine learning, there's natural language processing and the deep neural network, and also the big data analytics. And also by application that this AI in precision medicine can be applied in pathology as well as like radiology. Also, it can be applied in the drug discovery and development. And it can be also used in the oncology area and for diagnosis, prognosis, also provide the appropriate treatment for the patients. And also, it can be applied in genetics and try to predict the people's risk for disease. Also can be used to diagnose rare diseases, and because rare diseases is really hard to be diagnosed by doctors, because it is rare, so the doctor don't have the experience, and they have never seen like even one particular type of that disease. So it's really hard for a doctor to diagnose a rare disease, and sometimes the patients will go from doctor to doctor in order to get the diagnosis, and the average diagnosis time for rare disease is like 7 to 8 years. So like right now, the people use AI to diagnose rare diseases, and you can actually get the diagnosis like within days or weeks. Also, the end user for precision medicine is like pharmaceutical company, biotech companies, and also the research institute and academic centers, and also can be used by the doctors and nurses and others. And I think you probably heard a lot of news that some big like medical centers, they already use the knowledge base, the big like knowledge base, try to provide a service for their patients. So the next few slides, I'm going to talk about the artificial intelligence application in precision medicine and a few examples. And so I want to start with like Google AlphaFold. Is developed by Google DeepMind. And so for the people who are not in biology area, and protein is protein like molecules. They are they are very complex. They are composed by the amino acid. The building blocks there is amino acid. So so here you can see this is the primary sequence of the protein. And so for the protein to perform its function, it has to fold it into this 3D like a structure, three-dimensional structure. And so the protein is plays all kinds of like very important roles in biological process. And so protein can serve as a building block for the cells, and the protein can, can behave can be the hormones to regulate your body functions, and the protein can be the antibody to attack the virus and bacteria. So the protein is very important, and so this 3D structure, and we have to be able to understand this 3D structure, how the protein folded, in order to understand the protein's function. And so like often for scientists, in order to figure out how the protein fold, and often take a few years. And so Google AlphaFold, they take advantage of the primary sequence of the protein, and which the primary sequence can be deduced from the Human Genome Project, and also AlphaFold will take the structure that already solved by the scientists, and so there are thousands of the structures in the database. So they use this to start, and use the machine learning, and as well as the deep neural network, and so they are able to predict the structure of all the human proteins. And So it's really a big advancement in biomedical field, because like once you understand the 3D structure of the protein, and you can predict how the protein function, and also you can understand. So for example, if there's a mutation in the protein, how that mutation can cause the disease, and based on that, and the scientists can design the drug and to cure that disease or treat that disease. So it's really like a cool like advancement in the field. And also the artificial intelligence has been applied in radiology field. So 10 years ago, the artificial intelligence has been used in the image processing and analyzing. So the AI is used in the radiology to scan the X-ray image, and so you can see here using the machine learning and deep learning technology, and so the AI system can scan the image and identify the lesion and classify the lesion, and then draw the conclusion. So this is really helpful to for radiologists and to process like a large amount of the X-ray images with speed and accuracy. And for a lot of healthcare centers that with a huge backlog of huge backlog of the radiology cases, and they use AI to resolve this backlog. So also the artificial intelligence also applied in digital pathology. And so traditional pathology, you get the human specimen, and then you wrap the specimen with a wax, and then you slice the tissue and put on the slide, and then stain the slide. And this stained slide can be examined under the microscope by pathologists, and to give the diagnosis. So right now, the digital pathology just take this slide, the glass slide, and scan those glass slide into the image and into the computer. So once it's digitized, and then you can apply the AI to analyze this slide, and so it really can increase the efficiency and accuracy. And I just went to the conference. They talk about they have this all these digitized slides, and they could use the AI system to prioritize the positive cases. Also circle the cancer part in the tissue, and all those already analyzed the data by the AI system, waiting for the pathology to confirm the diagnosis. So it was really cool. So also, the digital image can be combined with genetic information. Often, the human tissue, they divide the tissue into to several parts. One part go to do the pathology study, and the other part will do the genetic testing. And so, this digital imaging of a pathology combined with the DNA data, and they all can be stored in the server or on the cloud. And so these combined data can be available to pathology all over the U.S. or around the world. So it's really helpful to solve the difficult cases, because you can have access to all the expertise around the world. So our company, Breakthrough Genomics, we're think we're the pioneer of artificial intelligence in genetics. So we founded like 2017, and our mission is to apply artificial intelligence in understanding human genome. And so 2019, we launched a virtual geneticist. It's an AI-powered like genomic data analysis platform, and can automated read your genome. And 2023, we launched an AI-powered pancreatic cancer early detection test. And 2024, we launched like automated like genetic variant classification using large language model. And from now and beyond, we want to integrate like genetic data with all other healthcare data to provide healthcare insight. So first, I want to talk about virtual geneticists, the automated like genome reader. And each person's genome is inherited from parents. One copy from mother, and the other copy from father. And so each person's genome is really a unique encyclopedia, which written the details about this person. So you have your genome actually has 3 billion like genetic codes, and so these codes like which not only encode code for the physical attributes. So for example, how tall you are, and so what's your hair color, eye color, and so what do you look like, and also these like genetic code for your health conditions too, and so for example, your predisposition for the common disease like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, or cancer, or to like 7,000 rare diseases. So really, you understanding your genome really give you the knowledge, and so you can take advantage of this knowledge and to make the informed decision about your well-being. So our virtual geneticists can automatically read your 3 billion genome, really give you the insight of your healthcare, your health conditions. So like the virtual geneticist, I'm board certified in medical genetics. So I'm geneticist, and like a few years ago, I already found out that virtual geneticist is better than me. And so here, so our like virtual geneticist has been used by the doctors, by clinical scientists, by researchers, and so one of the scientists, the clinical scientist, Dr. Albert, and so she presented. She is from University of British Columbia, and she presented her study at the American Society of Human Genetics last year. So she did a retrospective study, like around 1,000 samples for the past 5 years at like UBC Children's Hospital, and so she found out that the virtual geneticists actually can identify the diagnosis, the cases, like with the diagnosis that missed by the human geneticists. And it depending on the cohort, is up to 8 to 10% of these cases that previously they are called negative cases, actually is diagnosed by virtual geneticists. And so virtual geneticists actually take advantage of the large language model to scan the literature, scan the medical node of the patients, and also use machine learning and deep neural network to analyze the genomic data. Also, Dr. Albert, she presented that she actually compared two platforms, and the one platform is Exomizer, and the other platform is virtual geneticist. And so the Exomizer actually is a very popular platform that has been used by 100,000 genome project. And but the Exomizer is a statistical base, and the virtual geneticists, our tool is based on the artificial intelligence. So she compared the performance of these two platforms, and as you can see here, and the blue is a virtual geneticist, and the green is Exomizer. So you can see the comparison, and So here are the missed cases, and virtual genetics only miss 1% of the cases, and the exome method missed like 18% of the cases. So like really, you can see the artificial intelligence platform is way better than the traditional analysis platform. So like virtual genetics is like basically it can take the medical record, the genomic data, the published like literature, and the pathology data, and all like go into the virtual geneticists, and the output of the virtual geneticists is the insight for diagnosis and prognosis and cure options. And soon we're going to have a chatbot and to interface like virtual geneticists with the healthcare providers, like a doctor and the patients. And also we applied artificial intelligence in early cancer detection field. And like particular, we did that for pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is a deadly cancer. It's often found in the late stage, and there are not much treatment options available. And so the early detection is really key, but it's very challenging. And so we take advantage of the artificial intelligence and the deep neural network, and be able to detect the tumor DNA methylation patterns. So DNA methylation basically is the decoration of the DNA, and so the methylation pattern often has a dramatic change in the cancer cells. And so we use this technology, and we can detect the early pancreatic cancer at stage 1, stage 2, and with the high sensitivity and the specificity. Sensitivity is 83%, and specificity is 95%. And so because we meet this unmet need in the field, and we received the FDA Breakthrough Device designation. And the very cool thing about this test is you really don't need to do the biopsy, and it's a non-invasive. It's a liquid biopsy test, and you just need to draw 1 tube of blood, and we can tell you that if you have a early stage like pancreatic cancer or not. So this test we launched in 2023 in US as well as like internationally, and we received the CPT code for the insurance reimbursement in US in 2023, and we also received the Medicare fee schedule of $1,800 for this test in 2024. And so with the success to apply AI in the early pancreatic cancer detection, we move on to come out with multiple GI cancer detection tests. So these tests will take the same approach, and so we can detect pancreatic cancer and stomach cancer, liver cancer, colon cancer, and esophageal cancer, and with only 1 tube of blood, and with high sensitivity and specificity for the early stage cancer. So really, this early stage cancer detection can give the people the tool to take the cancer, to control the cancer, and really to detect the cancer at the early stage when the surgery is still very effective to remove the cancer. So here is the here's the summary that we have seen a lot of progress of how the artificial intelligence in precision medicine, how it changed the field, and I think it's just the beginning. And thank you for your attention.
Dr. Lee.
Hi.
So how do I get one of these tests? I want to. Can I do a test, like
Yes,
to see how?
yes. So it started to offer in our lab right now, and so we have the CPT code, and so you like right now the test is for high risk people in order for reimbursement, but we do offer the cash the option for the people who are curious to want to know that if they have the pancreatic cancer or not.
Irvine, but it doesn't. It can. I mean, if you draw blood, can you tell us whether we have the marker or we're susceptible to all of these stomach, liver, colon, esophagus, pancreatic cancer?
So Dr. Lee over here, real quick on that rare disease for diagnostics and around precision medicine with rare disease, I'm curious, are there going to be some modality changes as far as how rare disease can be treated with precision medicine? Because it's such a small population that it's usually treated in the general sense.
Yeah, so right now we can see the artificial intelligence really help the diagnosis, and so the pinpoint what's the cause of the rare disease is the first step, and I'm sure there are a lot of like usage of the AI in the treatment. So for example, to design the drug, I believe there are some of the certain rare diseases already have the targeted drug to
Thank you.
treat.
I appreciate that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Justin Lee. I presented on liver cancer yesterday, liquid biopsy as well. I just had some questions. There's
Sure.
a lot of companies out there with case-controlled studies, smaller studies, retrospective that are, and we were one of them in the past as well, that were claiming high sensitivities and specificities. But it's very hard to tell whether that's going to be the true performance in a generalized population until you do a large-scale prospective study. So I'm curious about that. Number one is, where can we find the data in the publications, and what kind of clinical trials have been done? And
Yes.
secondly, I'm also curious about the MSET test, the multi-cancer detection test, and your thoughts on kind of a cost effectiveness of that, given we've seen what happened with GRAIL and Illumina.
Yeah.
It's just much easier to get a Medicare reimbursement or to get adoption for single tissue tests.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think we launched the pancreatic cancer, and so far, I think the response is positive, and so we got a CPT code, we got a fee schedule, and for the multi-cancer, I think probably is challenging for the Medicare to really agree to pay for that. But probably is not cost effective that you want to detect several cancer, so that's another topic, and also you talk about the big like clinical trial study. I think definitely we submit the FDA the breakthrough device, and we have done around 500 samples for pancreatic cancer, and definitely that still leaves the room for doubt, right? And so we actually will enroll ourselves into the pre-seed study, and they actually is the biggest international study, and so we are hoping that we're going to get more data to support how definitely our test can detect the early stage pancreatic cancer, but there are a lot of questions the doctor asks. Okay, if my patient has a pancreatic cyst and have a pancreatic lesion, and is your test can help us to resolve this, and one way or the other, and so we have to tell the doctor we don't have enough the clinical trial data to answer that question. So enroll ourselves into a pre-seed study, and we're really feel lucky that we're part of the study, and the pancreatic cancer is a rare cancer, so it's really hard to find enough patients to do the clinical trial. In this pre-seed study, they have 7,000 pancreatic cancer patients worldwide. They basically is headed by Dr. Dan Simon, and which is the member of the Academy of Science. And so we really want to get the solid science behind our test, and to be able to really help people.
Last question.
Last one, very quick. Sorry. Can you articulate how this technology, specifically genomics, could impact population health management? Because precision medicine being one thing, but helping population health using this technology, is that something that could be looked at?
Yes, I think that there are like there's a people. I think the researchers, they actually have done the million. One in us or something, the big project that we sequence the million people, and in fact in Europe, in Netherlands, they want to, they already sequence every newborn. So like I think like looking into the future, I think everybody like since baby we should have the genome sequence, so we don't really need to go back every time like the people have a disease and then we do the genetic testing. We probably should have everybody has their genome on their phone, and if you have any problems, you just can use our virtual geneticist to query it. So like say okay, like based on our genome, you can ask all the questions you want. We really want our platform to be a ChatGPT for your genome, like so you can ask any question you want. And I think definitely like I think it's the most cost-effective way for the healthcare that in order everybody has their genome sequence, and so you can avoid a lot of like diseases, and you can take your health in control. Like yeah.
Excellent. All right, thank you, Dr. Lee. Guys, there's rooms outside too. We can keep questions and commentary still going with people if you're interested, and to use your own words, that was really cool. All right, next we have talking about building a stronger future for California, Bob Hertzberg, from Los Angeles. He served as Speaker of the California State Assembly and is the majority leader of the California State Senate. I mean, we're going to have to live up to this. He's known for his energy, integrity, and legislative skills. He has tackled through tough issues and negotiations and contributing significantly to trade and government. Bob's going to lead a discussion on strategic initiatives and future plans aimed at enhancing the economic and social landscape of California. Let's give Bob a big warm welcome.
Listen, I got a deal on that genomic thing for $1,500, I want you to know. No, I'm joking. Hi, everybody. Madam Treasurer, Madam Controller, thank you for being here. Statewide officials, it's a big deal that they're here. So let me tell you why I came, other than Fiona breaking my arms and all of our friends. But aside from that, I think I bring value to the conversation. As was mentioned, I served as a leader of the California Assembly, where Fiona served, and as Majority Leader of the State Senate. And by that virtue, I got to see the inside of the belly of the beast, how stuff is really made, what really goes on, and how to make public policy. But in addition, I have spent many years as an entrepreneur, and I have the cuts and the bruises of being a startup entrepreneur on a global basis. I know how tough it is to raise money, to deal with the often insanity of the regulatory hurdles, and so many of the day-to-day business challenges of meeting a payroll and making sales. And particularly in payroll, you got to pay everybody else first and you get paid last. So I bring that perspective to my topic. Building a stronger future for California, a discussion on strategic initiatives and future plans aimed at enhancing the economic and social landscape of California. One heck of a heavy topic. Reading the news today, everybody, we all know that one might say California has fallen off the face of the earth. No housing for folks who want it. Homeless people all over the place who can't afford a home, who are impaired and flood the streets of California. The crazy number of lawsuits, difficult labor laws, cost of living, the number of reports of folks who are moving away from California. What could I share here today to cause you to believe anything different, other than to get the hell out of California and invest someplace else? That's not what I'm going to promote. And this, ladies and gentlemen, for those who've been around for a while, is not the first gloom and doom story about California. Nearly 35 years ago, The cover of the November 18th, 1991 Time magazine screamed, "California, the endangered dream." In a series of articles, Time wrote, "California's fabled magnetism is reversing itself, and the very qualities that lured millions to Californians for 50 years are threatening to disappear." Among other dire observations, Time basically said that we're choking on smog and no new industry will come to California, and that was in 1991. And ladies and gentlemen, everybody in this room know that that was before Apple, one of the biggest companies in the world, to Google, which incorporated on September 30th, 1998, and the hundreds of new Silicon Valley, Silicon Beach, Orange County, and San Diego bio and tech firms that we all see, like Qualcomm and others. And we also note that the Air Quality Management District here in Southern California called nearly 50 stage 1 smog alerts in 1990 and 0 in 2013. We are making progress. The point worth making over and over is that current observers are not good predictors of the future. So often what appears to be insurmountable is not informed by the newest innovators and new policymakers. And despite the current gloom and doom, much of which is 100% accurate, I am optimistic about California. Somewhere, and I'm going to talk to you about that, somewhere in my reading I ran across a quote that said, "An optimist is someone who doesn't have all the facts." Well, here are some relevant facts that support my optimism. I am bullish on the fundamentals, and I will share some of my important observations that inform my optimistic way forward. First, California is magic. Despite the fires and the earthquakes and politics that we still attract extraordinary people from all around the world, and many of whom are in this room here today, from the Netherlands and beyond. People just want to be a part of California. I have traveled the world. I have been to every province, special district, autonomous region, and municipality in China, and I have never met anybody who says they want to move to Biloxi, Mississippi, or St. Louis, or Maine. Everybody cares about California. It's just the way it is. The magic is extraordinary. The California, for those, I'm a California historian, was named after a mythic island referred to in a book written in 1541 called The Exploits of Esplandian. And it was a Spanish story of this mythic island called California, ruled by women, naked black women draped in gold. And it was this incredible place. And so when the Spaniards who heard these stories came to California in their ships back in the 1500s, and they saw California, it was what was in their mind's eye of this great place, California. And that magic has informed who we are since then and continues to inform it today in every province from Wuxi to Wuhan to Wuhu to Cardiff, Wales, to every place in between. You can't deny the magic. Second, money. Money. People want to talk about all the other BS. Money is always the bottom line. 51% of all venture capital through the United States is raised in California. $104 billion in 2022. Nothing compared to New York was peanuts. All these other states, peanuts. Everybody's still coming here for the money. Third, as I'm told, Fiona said, I wasn't here earlier, but it was referenced in some of the other remarks about the treasurer, innovation. Innovation dominates in California. By one measure, just one measure, in 2021, 46,564 patents were issued in California. 46,000. The next closest 10 didn't even come close to that. People are here that are innovating and coming up with new ideas from all parts of the world. Next, so also I'm told that Fiona said talent. And listen to this. In physics, chemistry, medicine, between 2013 and 2023, California earned 18 Nobel Prizes in the sciences. And the next closest was something like 5 by New York, and everybody else was 1 and 2. California is the place that attracts talent from all corners of the planet. And fifth, The 10 campuses of the University of California occupy 6 of the 15 top positions and generate nearly $50 billion in economic activity. And there are 4 science institutes that were created by when I was speaker and Gray Davis was governor. The institutes of innovation and transfer centers are working collaboratively with hundreds and hundreds of businesses and startups engaging in technology. I just was on the phone working with some folks at the University of California, San Diego, coming up with a new battery to replace the lithium-ion battery that's significantly safer, half the price, and just one of the many, many innovations. And also, we have the California voters twice passed billions of dollars for the California Institute for Regenerative Medicine, dealing with some of this stem cell stuff, some of the science stuff that we've talked about here, that have incubated so many companies. Driving down here this morning, I was on the phone with a number of professors at USC, who've been collaborated with City of Hope, collaborated with Caltech, and with UC Santa Barbara on coming up with a new technology that helps you blind people get their sight back. Extraordinary. If you want to invest, let me know. They're looking for money. And 6th, California is a small business state with deep resilience. 4.15 million small businesses. Small businesses defined as a business less than 500 people. And so when people, and that represents 99.8% of all businesses. So sure, we have problems. A lot of people don't like the labor laws, don't like some of the other challenges, the high cost of living and education, which I'm going to talk about, and they move to other states, Tennessee, Georgia. You see these other places, Texas and Florida. But the bottom line about resiliency that's important is you're not going to beat up all these small businesses. And it's informed by the innovation and the creativity and the imagination of folks who are trying to deal with the California dream. It is so extraordinary. So look, there are many positive fundamentals that look favorably on California and that, in my judgment, negate the very bad news that people like to write about in newspapers that are trying to make sales. Here are some of my observations from my experience in all 58 counties of California, all 482 cities of California, that I think that inspire what is named for this great place for Queen Calafia. Just no clothes. I had Queen Calafia in my backyard, if you remember Fiona, but I put clothes on her, and I made a statue of her. But any event, number 1, let's take, and let me just give you some context that I think are important. The bullet train. Everybody wants to, since I started going to China in '86, they got 17 bullet trains. Pretty amazing. We can't get ours done. I stood on the floor of the legislature in 2001 and argued for a $9 billion bond, and the damn thing's still not built. And everybody wants to call it the train from nowhere. Well, let me tell you something about the bullet train. The Central Valley of California is larger by population than 38 states. It is an extraordinary place. The bullet train will transform it in a very big way. The bullet train will impact housing. Where's Mr. Lau here? Is he still here? He was doing some housing stuff. There he is. In a very big way. It will provide opportunities for us to build lower cost housing in central part of California. There's 230 different kinds of crops that are grown. We feed the world. Those crops are being dramatically impacted by AI and new technologies with radio frequency devices, with all new ways to grow crops. We feed the world, and I think we're going to continue to feed the world in a big way. So I look at the high-speed rail as a catalyst for something that's going to be really important that most people don't think about. They only look at it as, it took us a long time. But once it's built, it will change things. If you look at the history of California, the newspapers talked about the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a pipe dream. It's never going to work. Now more people cross there than ferries in 4 minutes a day. People thought Hoover Dam was never going to work. It was a joke. When you read the papers of those days, it is always, as I said, the predictors of the current that just don't understand the future and what that really means. Second, California's aggressive goals in the environmental space are going to be transformational, and they're already impacting the economy. There's no internal combustion engines in California to be sold after 2035. 100% net zero by 2045. That's not very far away. Those impact so many endeavors. BYD in Lancaster, as we know, Build Your Dreams, the company that I used to buy my batteries from in Shenzhen, is building electric buses. There's green hydrogen going up. The Japanese are really, really big on that. I'm going to the Consul General's home on Sunday night. There's a whole bunch of people working in that space on a global basis. Lithium Valley down in the Salton Sea. I think you're going to see extraordinary level of economic commitment from that. And you know what happens in California? It impacts the whole country. Back in the early 70s, Governor Brown, when we called him Governor Moonbeam, basically created an energy commission. And that energy commission set standards for appliances at people's homes. And those appliances, everybody says, oh my God, this is going to kill everything. Well, guess what? The whole country adopted those standards for purposes of what energy consumption were in appliances. We did the same thing. When I was speaker, we passed these renewable portfolio standards, and we passed tailpipe emission standards. Everybody says, oh my God, this is horrible. Well, guess what? Barack Obama and everybody adopted those across the country. It does inform the leadership and the magic of California. Its ability to lead across the country in these kinds of things, and which then draws the attention of so many creative folks, it informs the underlying position. The privacy laws. We passed the first privacy law in California, which includes AI. I'm confident that we have 41 bills now pending in the legislature. Last week I was up at Stanford working on AI with legislative leaders from around the country. I'm told that there's 50 new bills a week being introduced around the country. But people are looking to California to come up with a framework like we did on privacy, on AI, and I think that's going to be a big play going forward. Next, the pandemic impacted the way we work and the way we live. More and more folks working from downtown, and climate policies, reducing vehicle travels, miles traveled. Fred's doing a big thing out where I live in terms of changing these whole building structures of what's going to happen. We in Los Angeles just passed HLA, an initiative that increases a bicycle ridership in a dramatic way. Now, I'm not a bike rider, I'm not that great of an athlete, but there's a lot of people that are. And fundamentally, when you look at the environmental policy, when you look at the planning policy of what we're doing, I think you're going to see a significant shift of people moving more toward downtown centers. These places that used to have people that work there, now we're going to have people living in there and working where they're living. That's fundamentally shifted. And there's a series of laws, details of which I can't go into, that we've passed all across the state that are going to change that architecture. Now, we see that in some European countries, in Amsterdam and the like, but I think you're going to see a lot of that happening here in California. Next, education, critically important. The education system in California sucks. We're at the bottom of the barrel. People want to leave because education's crappy. I think you're going to see AI dramatically impact that. Why? Because every kid can have a tutor. Every kid can learn at their own pace. Every kid can focus on things that matter to them. I was with this, what's this actor's name? His wife is the Ukrainian lady. Smart guy, what's his name? Ashton Kutcher. I was with Ashton Kutcher the other day at some deal for Nicholas Burgoon was doing, and he tells us that he's got a teddy bear for his kid that talks to his kid and trains his kid, and he can tell the teddy bear what to say and what not to say. He's a big techo guy. I don't know much about that stuff, but I mean, it's extraordinary what you're going to see start happening. Because when you look at opportunities for housing, you look at education, you look at what the social structure is going to be with respect to communities. That's why I'm optimistic. Politics is upside down today. People are pointing fingers at each other, and it's crappy. But the bottom line is an analyst, you want to look at the fundamentals about money, about innovation, about the fundamental attractiveness of a community and the like. And so that's what informs my optimism. It was mentioned earlier about hackers and ransomware people. You know, the blockchain's going to change that whole game. The internet and the reliability and security of the internet is literally around the corner. I mean, the energy issue and some of the other issues on blockchain, but we are doing stuff in the legislature. We're doing stuff in California, and I think you're going to see those kinds of things shift and give us a lot more confidence. And then the other thing that and Governor just mentioned this today in his statement talking about the budget and the volatility of the budget, I think you're going to see California changing its tax code in a way that avoids the volatility. We recently have, when you read the newspapers, $100 billion surplus, and now we've got a downturn in terms of surplus and a big hole. You know, when I was working with Schwartz and Schnitzel, we did this stuff on rainy day funds. We now have 4 rainy day funds that you have. But that's just a Band-Aid. That doesn't solve the underlying architecture. I do think there's some seriousness of purpose about fixing the tax code, which will fundamentally move away from the arguments about California falling in the ocean and everybody want to beat us up all the time. So, you know, and the other thing that I just put it out there in terms of offering up a larger vision is I'm hoping, Madam Treasurer and Madam Controller, that we do a sovereign wealth fund like they do in Norway and Singapore and the like. The reason why a sovereign wealth fund is important, where you put money away and you invest it, is that instead of working on the backs of people every day and taxes going up and down, it gives you a fund that can produce capital, and the capital can pay for a lot of the services that are necessary. And I know there's some discussions about that. We put that in the privacy measure, where we gave Fiona the money, and you know, as soon as all these fees and fines come in, she gets 93% of them. And then lastly, which Peter here, you know, from the Netherlands is here, the governor is traveling to Europe this next week to go see the Pope. He just signed an agreement with South Korea. He signed a series of MOUs with China. The King of Norway was just in California recently. California is fourth largest, people say the 5th, but I think it's the 4th largest economy. And when I was fortunate enough, and when I travel with Fiona and the like, when you travel the world, you get treated like you're head of state. You don't get treated like you're, you know, from Mississippi or South Dakota. It's a whole different world. It just is. Because California just has a dramatic impact, as I suggested at the opening of my remarks. And what we're doing now with this governor and what we're doing in this state, and our lieutenant governor is former ambassador, is we're really starting to treat ourselves like a nation state. And I think that the impact of that will have a great benefit. I was the chair of Los Angeles County Economic Development Corporation in 2004 and 2011, and we worked so hard to work internationally on things. And I see that level developing. And I see more and more other countries looking to deal with us. And I think the economic outcome from that in predicting where California is going to go is going to be strong. It's going to be important. So when I look at those kinds of things, I think that's really, really a big deal. All I would say, and I think this is a really important point, my only counsel is that when you're a foreign country and you come to this country, just like when I go to China or I went to Cardiff, Wales with my factory or whatever else it may be, you gotta respect the local folks, man. Figure out what you're gonna make, how much your internal rate of return is, what you wanna make on your product. But hire labor unions to do your work. They'll help you like crazy get jobs. They'll help you getting your necessary approvals. Respect the local culture. I was married to someone who was on the board of General Motors, and when they went to China, man, Shanghai Motor Corporation made them 50%, now it's 51%. You gotta do that, you can make money. What's happening is that a lot of solar companies, for example, because of what's happening internationally, are moving here. LONGi is opening a big factory, 1,100 people in Ohio. JA Solar is opening a factory in Arizona. You got BYD, there's a bunch of other folks where that integration and sensitivity to the international economic dynamic is so important. But I just tell people that looking here, investors, they always look at the short-sighted stuff. If it costs a few more dollars to deal with the local landscape, just do it. There's a real sensitivity to that. And I think it's wrong, and I think it's a big mistake why you get these tensions. You know, in the South, go look at what Mercedes did. What state is that? Is that Georgia? Alabama? Yeah, Alabama. Or go look at what Toyota did. Is that in Tennessee? These guys are heroes in those communities because they worked it really well. I've watched them do it. And I've worked with the leadership. I bumped into the Speaker of the House of where was he from? Seth Hammett. I think it was Georgia or South Carolina, I can't remember. In London, when I was working on my solar stuff, I go, what are you doing here? They beat you up for traveling. He goes, no, are you kidding? In my state, they love me for traveling because I'm bringing business home. And so I think that where we are in the continuum, I think we're in kind of a hiccup politically that's somewhat challenging. But I think that's just noise, right? Stick with the fundamentals. Stick with a real diagnostic of what's happening. Take the long view. Don't be a punk in the system. You know what I mean? It's really important. Otherwise, we'll be making a lot of painful mistakes that are unnecessary. So I'm full of a lot more ideas where I think California will grow economically and socially. Glass batteries, 3D printing impacting the supply chain. Disney is investing billions of dollars here in Anaheim. In LA, we're going to have a lot of investment because of the Olympics in 2028. But I want to close on this. As I think about the future, I'm reminded of a story that occurred in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair. The greatest thinkers of the day were asked, what do you think the next 20 years are going to look like? And they all gave their ideas. And not one of them said the automobile. Not one of them said the automobile, which dominated everything. So the bottom line is, who the hell knows what the future is going to bring? But I must say that I would not bet against California because we have the fundamentals, and as I said, we have the magic. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Bob Hertzberg. All right, if you're following along in your programs, go ahead and throw them away because we're way off. Then we're going to bring up a special guest right now, California State Controller Malia Cohen. She was elected in 2022, oversees California's finances, audits agencies, and manages payroll. She chairs the Franchise Tax Board, sits on CalPERS and CalSTRS boards, and represents District 2. Ms. Cohen works on property tax modernization and affordability housing, previously serving as the president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. Please welcome Malia Cohen.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Do you guys need a stretch after Hertzberg's lecture? You okay? Man, that guy can, and this was a PG version of his presentation. I just want you to all to realize that. I am really honored to be here. You heard in the introduction, my name is Malia. I represent the entire state of California. And Bob, you are right. California is poised to close in, pushing out Germany to be the 4th largest economy in the world. And that is, I couldn't agree more with your sentiment and your enthusiasm when it comes to California, how forward-thinking she is, how she embraces diversity, and more importantly, how she knows how to make money. So, I am the other half of the fiduciary female dynamic team that runs the state of finances for the state of California. You already know the treasurer, Fiona Ma. She is in charge of money coming into the state of California, deep relationships with banks. She does a lot of investing. I am responsible for money going out. So that means I write the checks. So a lot of people pay attention and sit up when I start talking, because they're interested. They want to know, how can they do business with the state of California? And I think that is a great question, and I hope to be able to answer some of the questions. So thank you, Fee, for giving me an opportunity to come and present myself and some ideas about what makes California so remarkable and so great. I want to just also recognize the leadership team that has brought all of us together. Thank you. This is not an easy thing to do, a convening in a forum like this. So first, I want to just level set and just talk a little bit more in depth about what the state controller does, what her role may be. Now, you guys remember Betty Yee? She was my predecessor. She was the former state controller, and I was just elected in 2022. But the controller's job manages public funds, and these public funds are ensuring that they are to the benefit of all people and all programs for the state of California. As I am a financial steward for the 4th largest economy in the world. My entire team, which is about 1,600 people, they oversee the state's finances. They manage the accounting, the auditing, the payroll system, the disbursement systems, vendors, local governments, and then did I mention that we manage the audits? These are statewide audits for expenditures. So expenditures, is a fancy way of just saying the bills. Audits, you guys are all business people. You know what an audit is. If you don't, come see me over here. I'll give you a tutorial, a crash course. I'll come in and audit your business if you'd like and really show you how it's done. I've got 274 auditors just chomping at the bit ready to go. In the bio, you also heard that I sit on 70 different boards and commissions, and as well as financing authorities. So my job really is to provide direction, guidance, and approval in making sure that the tax dollars are spent appropriately. I've made it my priority to make sure that all of the funds that the state of California is distributing is going in places that serve all Californians. And it is our belief that you shouldn't need a lawyer or a lobbyist to interact with state government. So we make it easy for everyone so that everyone can thrive in the state. Now, today is a really interesting day. Do you know what today is? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is May Revise Day. And do you know what that means? We're just budget nerds. I mean, I know Fiona knows what it means. I know Bob knows what it means. Anyone that's dealing with the state budget knows that today is the day that Governor Newsom presents or unveils or reveals his budget. In this case, his budget cuts. And so this is a very precarious budget situation that we find ourselves in. And he has made several suggestions, cuts that need to be made on top of already $17 billion that of cuts that the governor has already found. Now marks the dance, the very delicate dance that the governor's office does with the state legislature as they hammer out what programs are going to get cut, what and who is basically not going to get any services. So now that's the ugly side. I want to paint a little bit of a rosier picture, or maybe rosy is not the correct words, but let's say it's a balanced perspective about what life is like, the economic life and vitality of here in the state. And I'll be very frank, other states do wish that they could be us. We have a huge budget. We are incredibly wealthy. We have revenue streams that are steady, that are coming in. California, we should be very proud of ourselves because we have an economy that is expanding, and we offer good paying jobs across the entire state. And not only are these quality jobs, but we're also bringing in brand new industries. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today. So in California, we are creating the blue economy. Now, I know you probably have heard of the green economy, but are you familiar with the blue economy? No. Okay. Well, the blue economy is just harnessing the power of the resources of the ocean. And one of those 70 boards that I sit on the Coastal Commission. And so we are stewards of the state resources. So looking at how offshore wind can be a commodity and a resource that can be part of our local economy. And this is very careful because we don't want to disrupt the natural green economy, which is developing new technologies to limit and reduce harmful carbon emissions. So if anyone knows the treasurer, you know that she is a pro person in favor, a staunch supporter of the bullet train that we are feverishly working to get on board here in our great state. But speaking in line with that, we have created the electrification economy. That is an economy leading the nation in electric batteries, which you heard some discussion about earlier today, the adoption of electric vehicles, and most importantly, modernizing these infrastructures that support these transportation vessels. So I want to make sure that we don't forget about California's leadership in some of the more traditional industries, such as high tech, where we are leading the country in the world with our development and our deployment of AI and AI products. And then, of course, we have been leaders in other critical industries such as entertainment, which is really strong down here in Southern California, national defense and manufacturing. Those three, national defense and manufacturing, have really been the lifeblood that have sustained the state of California for the last year when the entertainment industry was on strike due to the writers' strike. I also want to note that California continues to be the largest and most diverse, and I'm going to add resilient, tourist economy in the United States. She is coming back. When you look at the tourist numbers of the San Francisco Bay Area, we are coming back to great numbers, besting our pre-pandemic numbers. We are number one in the nation for tourism spending. We're number one in the nation for new business startups, as well as number one in access to venture capital and funding. So if you were thinking about investing in California, I hope my presentation seals the deal. Get on board, come on, come join us. We're number one in manufacturing, high-tech innovation and employment, as well as agricultural innovation. I mean, to quote Donald Trump, I mean, this is a lot of number ones. This is a lot of number ones. I don't know. I'm not tired of winning. But I also want to show that last year's population increase in California also shows that people across the nation and the globe continue to pursue that California dream, just like Bob Hertzberg said. So don't believe Fox News, ladies and gentlemen. It's safe to be in California. You will thrive here. Your business will thrive here. So when you take all of these facts that I just threw out here, that is what makes California an economic powerhouse that will soon surpass Germany, becoming the fourth largest economy in the world. Now that we've kind of taken this high-level view, let's dive down a little bit. We have a little bit of time. Let's talk a little bit more and examine some of the specifics about the California economy. First of all, I want to just talk a little bit about the overall financial health. Now, I mentioned that today is the May Revise Day, the day that the governor reveals his budget. And as of March, the state's total available borrowable resources has reached over $80 billion. Now, that's just what we have at our disposal. Senator Hertzberg talked a little bit about, he described him as, he called him Governor Moonbeam, but also more formally Governor Brown. He had some infinite wisdom and some good insight, and that was, let's set up a fund to put money in for a rainy day. And quite honestly, that rainy day fund is saving our ass right now as we go through the highs and lows and the fluctuation of this budget crisis that we're in. So we're very grateful for that wisdom that has allowed us that space to be able to make our monthly obligations. We do have the money to pay our bills, to pay our debt now and well into the future. But what we're dealing with, the crisis that we're dealing with right now is looking to balance out. When I talk about our bills, I mean like our retirees, the unfunded liability, making sure that we're paying our state employees. That is first and foremost. The controller has the unique position to kind of sit at the top. It's what we call it, Fiona. You got the Department of Finance, you got the Treasury, you have the Controller's Office. We are control agencies. Thank you very much. I always forget that terminology. But that means we're controlling the money and the information and the access to it. So while we're talking about the budget deficits, that could be a little bit of downer, but there is a little bit of economic hope. Personal income tax was 11.2% higher than what was expected. That's important because that is our lifeblood when it comes to the budget. We need people to be working so that we can tax them and get that money back, and then redistribute it when it comes to roads, when it comes to fire suppression, when it comes to libraries or public schools. So this is an important revenue stream. The personal income tax receipts did outperform the governor's budget expectations. The United States inflation is down 3.5% as of March compared to where it was this time last year at 9.1%, which was the peak in June of 2022. So California has officially made up for the job losses that were reported during the pandemic, and single-family prices for their homes are actually stabilizing. So people are still realizing their value in their property. So this is not a bad economic picture. I want to shift and I want to talk and close out our discussion around investments. Now, do we have any investment professionals in the room today? Anyone interested in investment? Anyone want some money? Anyone want an investment? Oh, yeah, there you go. I knew that would wake you up. Well, the treasurer and I sit on two very large boards that have a combined value of about $760 billion. That's CalPERS and CalSTRS. And this is the nation's largest public pension funds. And CalPERS, we are updating some of our labor principles that we are going to be expecting to see in the June board meeting. And the labor principles are just setting a set of guidelines that are saying, Company A, if you would like CalPERS to invest invest in you, here are a list of criteria that we expect. No child labor. The elimination of all forced or compulsory labor. We want work environments to be safe and harassment-free. So that, believe it or not, has been a pretty controversial topic, but we are going to be looking forward to a vote in June. So, when you're talking to when you're talking with a multi-billion-dollar checkbook in your hand, companies are listening. And so that is how we're able to shape some of the policy and the policy priorities of the companies that we are investing in. We also collaborate with stakeholders such as the pension plan members. We do collaboration work with unions and advocacy groups and regulators just so that we can amplify our voice so that our investments are also having a positive impact on the community or the environment that we are investing in. So I just want to close out and say thank you for allowing me to be here. I don't know if we have time for questions, but I would love to take a couple at this time. My name is Malia Cohen, and I'm your your controller.
Not quite yet.
Okay, next question.
Nice to meet our new treasurer. Malia, thank you first off for the amazing energy. It's tough to get through these days. Secondly, as a small startup in technology changing the way the world reads specifically, that is a global problem. Not to mention 1 in 3 people are neurodiverse. That's 2.6 billion people, and we're solving that problem. It's a personal pain point for me. How do we get connected? I don't have the ability to fill out your forms. I have someone who can, but I've tried to get certified as a female-owned, as well as we have 2 founders on our team that are considered disadvantaged founders. We'd like to partner with you, and we'd like to change the way people can interact with government documents and read.
Oh my God, thank you very much. I appreciate your comment/statement, because this is exactly why I got into office. One of the things that I talked about was how dense the controller's office website is. How you almost need a PhD to understand the concept, the information that is up there. We are in the process of revamping that website, and I would welcome your feedback on it. I think as an able-bodied person, and we have a lot of able-bodied people in positions of power, that is how we're looking at through the lens. So your feedback would be critical, and I will make sure I get your contact information before I leave. We are also noting that we are supporting small businesses, and there was a law that the governor signed just last year that required a 25% of all business opportunities be set aside for minority and small women and small business owners. So we have many technology initiatives that are unfolding and engaging in this controller's office that we have set aside 25% for people to compete with and to be able to break down. And that is our contribution to make sure that we are supporting people that are not always at the table. Yeah, thank you very much. Alexis really doesn't need a mic. Just.
I'll just lower down a bit.
Okay.
So our controller, our future treasurer, when we have our future lieutenant governor.
Right.
Yes. Okay, so, I've been in the circuit of course, state pension funds investments. One thing, I noticed is that if you look at other countries, right, like the rising countries like Singapore, Hong Kong, or other economic hubs, what they do is that they really put out policies and investment vehicles, investment sources as their public communication, right, to attract foreign investment, attract domestic investments. One thing that I noticed is, given the fact that we are the 4th largest, hopefully soon 3rd largest economy in the world, I don't recall seeing a lot of proactive and also kind of easy to understand communication on a regular basis, so that people understand, you go to forums like this and you find out, oh my God, that's available. Oh, we have grants like this, or we have this. It's like a mystery, and it's like a sea of mystery that, oh my God, when I start a business, I have this, and that. Oh, and this is a channel. So it's like you said, you need a PhD.
You do.
We were just recently,
or a lobbyist or a lawyer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That charges 10x of what you could have navigated on your own with AI and with other technology tools. So we're in California, the hub of innovation. Why don't we use these tools to promote California when the Texas and the whatever other state, South Dakota, trying to get companies to move there.
Yeah.
Why don't we use technology, use the brains here to develop these tools and make people understand there's so much resources and so much investments available, and also assistance resources that we can help these companies to start, to grow, and expand.
Yeah, that is an incredible, that was a statement, certainly not a question. Let me begin to unpack that layer by layer. First of all, when you are the biggest game in the room, you don't have to bend over backwards to help people. And I believe that that is the attitude that California has. CalPERS and CalSTARS, $760 billion. We're not hurting for business. But when you have people, trustees that are at the table that are being intentional, targeting emerging markets, targeting emerging manager programs, supporting emerging managing programs, supporting women, LGBTQ, this is the direction that the world is going in. And people can resist. But this is the direction where inclusivity and diversity is yielding positive dividends, meaning that the data shows that when you have more diverse investors, you make more money. And in terms of these plans, that's the only thing that we're concerned with was delivering for our plan and our members. I agree with you that it is, sometimes the system is arcane, meaning literally paper to pen. And I agree that you often need to hire someone to help you navigate or have them use their context to help you gain access. And I fundamentally disagree with that. I think that government should be accessible to everyone. And so the steps that I'm taking is trying to demystify, like I said, our website, putting a translate button on the website so that people who don't speak English or English as a second language is also able to file. When I think about the Franchise Tax Board, businesses that are doing their workings in the state of California need to have access to this information, should be able to file in their native tongue. So these are all projects that are underway. These are huge technology projects, though. So if there are technology companies in this room, I would encourage you to go to the Franchise Tax Board. You can come to the Controller's Office, as well as when RFPs are released, that notifies you. The way we communicate, because we don't have robust budgets, is through emails and listservs. And we need you to engage with us so we can collect your information so that we can disseminate opportunities out into the world. It is not the most efficient way, but that is the restrictions that I have at my disposal right now. Unless someone wants to donate their service and their technology, then we could talk about it.
I'm sure if you put out the request, there will be a ton of companies that would offer.
Well, that is great, because we are looking to be game changers. We are not looking to perpetuate the way business has been conducted. I think that's what happens when you elect women.
Just one provocative thought for the state of California is our state is soon to be led by three powerful women on the top 3 spots. Very soon, sooner than you think.
Yeah.
How about make sure that all the women get a seat at the table so that they understand what is available, so that they understand that they're empowered to be an equal voice and have equal access to funding, to resources, to policies, to make sure that businesses and boards that are led by both men and women can succeed here in California. Women need to be empowered, and it starts from you guys.
Thank you. And thank you, Alexa. That deserves applause. I also want to acknowledge the men that are in the room that are our allies. Don't be afraid, boys, okay? We still need you on the team. We still need you, okay? You are not obsolete. We are not banishing you. We want you to be here. But what Alexis is saying is that you're mindful that we've got talent everywhere. Thank you.
Can I just add something?
Okay.
Can I just add, this is my, we call ourselves the goddesses of fortune, by the way. But she's like my little sister, and I'm very proud of her, and so she will be running for state treasurer next in 2026. I'll be running for state lieutenant governor, because we all have term limits, but we also have the Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber. She is a very strong woman, and at CalPERS and CalSTRS, they're both run by women. So it's not necessarily who runs the organization, but it is who is in the organization, because they are civil servants. They also want to do 25 years in government, and we only come and go 4 or 8 years. So we need all of you to also lobby, okay? It's not enough for us. If we say something and nobody's standing behind us, well, then, the staff just says, well, okay, that's their idea, but we don't have to do it. So we really need you to all get involved. Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're going to do a panel discussion on how AI will change the future. I think that's where we're at. And this is going to be led by Darlene Shu-Bryant. She's the founder and executive director of Global SF. It's driven San Francisco's economy growth by attracting $5 billion in foreign investment. With a background in multinational firms and public affairs, she serves on various boards impacting regional businesses and community initiatives as one of the Bay Area's influential women. Please welcome, is it Dr.? No. All right, Miss Bryant to this.
Anyways, and first of all, I want to say thank you to Google for providing the teaser before lunch about AI. But what we're going to do is talk about the role of AI, and without realizing it, AI has been part of your life for more than a decade already, and we're going to have people talk about it. And why is it? So most importantly, what we're going to do is I just want to announce that we're going to be starting a center for excellence in AI. And these are the reasons why. One, and these are all the folks that are doing work in the industry and gather numbers. According to Accenture, more than $600 million in one quarter was raised for AI during the first half of the fiscal year. Secondly, the opportunity, wait a second, did I miss something? And the thing is, we had more than 63 generative AI use cases, and actually delivering over $2.6 trillion annually. So there is a lot of investment, a lot of business, a lot of activities that's taking place because of generative AI. And that AI does not replace people, it actually makes people more productive. It increases productivity by 43%. More than 100, and there are hundreds of generative AI use cases. So yes, you can take pictures, because I'm not going to read it to you. And why do we need an AI center? An AI center of excellence, because AI doesn't just work with AI alone. You need people. And because AI is only technology, you also need processes. So 3 different areas in order to make it work. And you have to bring these people together, whether it be policies, whether it be guidelines, and how do people actually use AI to be more productive with their work. And with that, I'm going to pass the microphone over to Helen, because she's going to bring the people up who can talk to you about what they've been doing the last few years, why money's being invested, and how you can all make money with AI. Helen. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. And I want to give thanks to Daniel, Lane, organizing this event. And thank you, Fiona, and everybody from the state to support this. And thank you, Darlene, for giving us the keynote. The bottom line is from Accenture, McKinsey, Harvard Business School, and Morgan Stanley. You saw what they put out there. So AI is here. AI is not a mystery. The panel that I put together is going to bring you the history and the future of AI. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome all the panelists to the stage. And we have Dr. Bill Klein, whom I've known for over 15 years. And we have Dr. Jose playing Dutch Witch, and he's the CEO and the founder of Bright Query, BQAI. And we do have Justin Cohen, who's the head of Slalom Ventures, is a part of the Slalom consulting firm. They provide lots of technology and business consulting globally. And last but not least, Mr. Steve Little, whom I have worked with for the past decade, and he is a founder and the head of Zero Limit Ventures and Zero Limit Capital. So that's just a quick intro, and I'd like to, have each of them to give it a little bit relevant history of their business perspective, in the context of AI, and I would ask follow-up questions. So should we start with Steve?
Sure. Well, hello. Thank you for this time and your attention. As Helen points out, I'm the CEO and managing partner of Zero Limits Ventures and Zero Limits Capital. Zero Limits Ventures is a high-growth investment banking firm. We focus primarily on accelerating value prior to acquisition for our clients and our portfolio. Zero Limits Capital is a funding arm that fuels those strategies and brings those companies to market. In terms of AI, our firm, our investment banking firm, uses a process we call the valuation growth assessment process. It's our mechanism for analyzing the status of an existing enterprise and making very specific recommendations on how to pivot that company into a higher value trajectory over time so that they can derive more value for shareholders or at acquisition or their exit or IPO for that matter. One of we use a process that analyzes 24 different factors, 18 of which are probably factors you'd expect, 6 are probably factors you wouldn't expect, and one of those happens to be a deep understanding of how the company can leverage AI to actually grow value for their shareholders. So we have a set of recommendations that we analyze the company through and then make those recommendations following that. And it, to give you a sense of it, our average multiple on invested dollars is about 6.2, which for those who may not know, that puts us within the top 1% of all funds in the world. So this is a methodology that works, and AI is a critical component of that methodology. Then as, of course, we launched Zero Limits Capital to help fuel that, and a lot of the companies we work with, we're financing their AI initiatives to generate this kind of accelerated return. That's what we do.
Justin, you want to follow up on that because you're making investments in startups and...
Testing. So, yeah, thanks. Justin Cohen. I lead Slalom Ventures, which is a part of Slalom, which is a consulting company. We're a management consulting company like Deloitte or Accenture, but we're a little bit smaller. So we have about $3 billion in revenue, about 13,000 consultants around the world. We're about 75% North America and 25% all over the world, Tokyo, London, Australia, and so forth. We work with next generation partners. We're big AWS partners and Salesforce and all that, but we're also really big in Snowflake and Pinecone and all of the latest technologies. And Slalom Ventures is the part of the business where we look for sort of that next generation of enabling technology in venture-backed startups. So that's what we do. We look for very practical solutions that our customers need to allow them to sort of get competitive differentiation against their peers, right? So we're always looking for that. And of course, a big part of that is artificial intelligence in many different shapes and flavors, but always with a very clear value proposition. I'm also the managing general partner for Slopal Capital, which is the private venture fund that helps fuel the growth of these next generation partners.
Thank you, Justin. Bill?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Bill Klein. I am a AI technologist and the founder of Y2AI, which is a company building AI infrastructure and technology. It's really around doing the things that we see in the movies. It's about creating AI that can speak and talk and think and do that sort of thing. I received my PhD in computer science and artificial intelligence back in the late 90s. I've been a lifetime entrepreneur. In about 2010, I formed a company that was doing AI in the entertainment and video game space, where we had an AI engine that was used by over 100,000 studios and individuals worldwide. Since then, we ended up selling our technology to Disney, and I helped Disney create something called the AI Character Studio, which is about taking all of the technology that we're talking about and applying it to Disney's IP so that the characters that your kids play with can get to know them, have conversations with them, play games with them, and do it across all of Disney's media, from playing games at home to being on Disney Plus, or even meeting your child at the park and continuing a conversation that they started at home. Since then, I moved on to the company I have today, which is Y2AI, and we may end up talking more about that later.
Yes,
thanks.
For sure. Okay, Jose.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jose Plan, founder and CEO of BrightQuery and its AI division, BQ AI. And by way of background, I am a former academic. So I started off as an economics professor, eventually became an accounting professor and director of an accounting research center at Berkeley, at Haas. And then eventually I led a finance research center at Anderson and UCLA. Then 5 years ago, I completely quit academia to focus on BrightQuery, or BQ. And BQ is based on research that I did for almost 2 decades. And what we do is we collect, parse, and analyze a variety of government filings from close to 90,000 jurisdictions. So federal agencies, state agencies, local, and such, and all to get insights into the economy. And we, in fact, provide this back, information back to various federal agencies. And we're, in fact, working with them on a very large-scale AI project that aims to develop a chatbot that can query, analyze, and answer questions around government statistics, starting at the federal level, then down to the state level, county, and such. And we're already in discussions with the UN Statistical Commission for launching this on a global basis. So this will probably be a decade-long project, but the vision is that eventually there will be a chatbot that you can query that will answer questions about any economy or healthcare or crime or homelessness, what have you. But instead of being based on web-scraped information, it will be based on factual numbers and reports that have been published and verified by legitimate statistical agencies. Thank you.
So I just want to dive into this very quickly. As you know, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Google, Gemini kind of transformed the universe with AI. Everybody's talking about AI, but each of you really has very deep background in tech AI data. I will start with you, Jose. I want to ask you what you've seen that's transformed the space with Gen AI, and what are the risks and opportunities from your point of view. And Bill, you will follow, and then Steve and Justin. Let's go.
Yes, absolutely. It's quite remarkable indeed what ChatGPT has done for the world the last couple of years, although it was based on technology that Google invented, and prior to that, a number of academics at various California universities, Stanford, Cal, and other places. And by the way, we're actually working with a Stanford AI lab on the initiatives I was talking about earlier. The way I see Gen AI and its role today is really kind of twofold. One is to enable what's commonly referred to as a RAG system, or retrieval system. So basically to retrieve facts. So I think AI has made it simpler for the world at large to find facts. And I think that's a wonderful contribution. As long as those facts are, of course, actual real facts and not fake facts. That's a different question. So that's one major revolution. The other revolution is the power of AI to extract insights. And there, I think we're just in the beginning stages. So right now, we're kind of more in the fact retrieval mode. Later on, I believe we're going to be in the more analysis and insights mode. And that's, I think, what will drive innovation in the next 10 years. The challenge with that is, of course, just like any powerful technology, it can also be used for negative and bad things. For example, the systems we're developing in the hands of bad actors could theoretically even bring down economies by manipulating currencies and financial markets. It's very, very dangerous. So these powerful AI tools especially in a financial and economic realm, can be quite devastating if we're not in the right hands.
Sorry, I forgot the question. No, you wanted to know what kind of what the big changes have been recently, and then some. Yeah, I get it. So, I think one of the things that's important to remember is that we're in a bit of a time warp right now. If you go back, let's say just 3 years or something, everybody was talking about how a computer could play Go, and could beat a Go champion, which has nothing at all to do with what we're seeing today, where we see these language models that are able to converse with people and all that. You know, I'm old enough, I've been doing AI for a very long time, and I remember back when like getting a system just to do simple logic was like a big deal. And so what I look at recently is say, what has changed? What has made everybody come to a talk like this and actually think that something might happen for real versus just a bunch of nonsense that a bunch of scientists talk about? And I think the one thing that's really changed for everybody is that computers now speak our language. Like, that's the big thing about large language models is we no longer have to figure out how to talk to computers. They have figured out how to talk to us. And they're able to do it very, very intelligently. And I think we probably don't even realize or accept today, even in this room here, how big a thing that is, how much that changes about the world, how much that changes about what technology can do for us. And I think, you know, the thing to be really, really cautious about, I've heard a number of people stand up here so far, and I understand why they're saying what they say, but when people talk about AI is not going to replace jobs, we should be careful about that statement as a blanket statement so that we're not covering our eyes to the fact that AI will absolutely take a bunch of jobs. The question is, how is it going to help us, and what can we do about that to make that a good thing rather than a bad thing? But we can't ignore the fact that AI can do things that people can do. It can do it cheaper, it can do faster, it can do it at better scale. So I think that's one of the big areas to like think about, be cautious about.
Yeah, so absolutely agree with both of you in a couple of ways. So I didn't talk about my background, but my background, I started out as a physicist, but then became an entrepreneur because I'm old, and I was there for the birth of the web, right? I was in high energy particle physics, and one of my businesses, I became a serial entrepreneur, and one of my businesses was very much around automation. And that put a lot of people out of business, right? Like that caused a lot of jobs to go away. But the result of that was a ton of new jobs that had much higher productivity and so forth. So everybody at the time, right, and this was the late 90s, early 2000s, people were worried about it, right? But it turned out to be a big benefit. And so I absolutely agree with that. And I think that's kind of the stage, and then getting to what you were saying, is that we're in this stage right now where actually AI is being used to automate. At least that's what we're seeing at the enterprise level. So again, we've got this lens of enterprise B2B type of technologies of helping enterprise companies right now. And so that's the big thing, is like, how can we do things faster? How can we do things better? And I think the future, right, will be these insights. But I think we have a long way to go in just the automation component. And here's what I mean by automation, and a little bit of a separation between computers speaking our language. I'll use an example. One of our big upcoming partners that we're really excited about is a company called Volatics. What they do is they're a data security platform. This is a little bit geeky technical, but basically if you're an enterprise and you've got lots of data sources, you've got databases, you've got shared drives with PDFs in it, you've got S3 buckets and stuff like that, and you've got consumers of that data, and then you've got policies which joins which consumers, the people, or roles or whatever, can see what data, right? That's very hard to maintain. Humans suck at maintaining that. So if you've got a new dashboard and you need certain people to have access to certain data, then ultimately a human's got to decide, well, does policy allow that, or which things do policies allow, and how do I need to change that? Well, what Volatics does is it actually uses an AI inference engine to interrogate your current policies and infer what you meant by those policies. GDPR, right? Like all of these kinds of, like, ultimately it's sort of a legal governance thing that drives a lot of this stuff, and it infers it and it says, hey, everybody seems to no one seems to have access to personnel files except for HR and this guy Justin. Maybe that's a mistake, right? Like, and so it's able to figure that out. And that's an automation kind of thing, right? And now every time someone needs new access, boom, it's done like that instead of taking 6 months, which is what it typically takes, because it's a very hard task for humans to do. But then they have another component where now when you're asking for access to data, instead of checking boxes and things like that, you can actually just communicate like a human being. And you could say, hey, I've got a team of people. These are the people that I work with. They're all sales executives. They need access to this data, da-da-da-da. And this sort of chatbot, LLM-powered software can respond, hey, GDPR doesn't allow that to go here, but here's what we could do. We could change it, da-da-da-da. And as the end result, it becomes essentially a ticket that then gets wrapped into the system. So those are the kinds of real-world things that we're seeing right now. But I think the very interesting stuff coming down the line is this sort of more high-level thinking about how to do your job better. But I think there's a lot to do with automation today that we're very excited about, and certainly for the next 5, 10 years is going to drive a lot of productivity.
Thank you. Steve, you want to add to that before next question?
Sure. So I'm not a technologist, so I can't really speak to the same level of detail. From my perspective, though, I think what ChatGPT and the others have done is really create pervasive awareness of something that was behind the curtain, so to speak. I mean, I'll admit I was shocked to realize how long you've been doing this. It's a long time, right? So this technology is not new. But the fact that we have something like ChatGPT or so many other tools similar to that now sort of bring to the average person this marvelous ability to get access to so much intelligence, or what seems like intelligence to the average person, is very, very powerful. And we're seeing real practical application of just that in business, not at a technologist level, not at the enterprise level, at the Main Street level. You know, so when we make recommendations to our clients that, hey, you have all these different AI-based tools you can use that will improve your marketing, improve your communication, improve your website, improve performance of the business, improve your financials, improve your modeling technologies. All of a sudden, we're creating forklift upgrades to the quality of a business, therefore the value of a business, just by implementing the stuff that's available to everybody on the street, let alone the technologists that can take this and do all these amazing enterprise things with it. So, you know, we have companies that are doing revolutionary things with creating their own AIs, right? One of my leading portfolio companies has an AI that does incredible things with a large language model based exclusively on over hundreds of millions of podcast episodes. So there's all kinds of things that are coming, and they're coming by virtue of the fact that we created this awareness. And I think that's the biggest impact that this had.
Okay, so we're bringing AI to Earth, and the purpose of this for each of you walk away and to think about what you can do. Just like Fiona mentioned that she uses ChatGPT because that's just a sounding board. So my question to all of you, now Bill, pay attention, because you need to remember this question. The question is, given the concern of data security, the concern of hallucination, everybody knows that, and the concern about the use cases that may or may not be sensible. You know that there is, you know, lots of, you know, misused AI, you know, applications, you know. So my question to all of you is, what does it take in terms of do's and don'ts for organizations, enterprises, you know, people want to do good to improve their productivity? What are the things you think they should do, or what they shouldn't do to make this happen? Because as Harvard Business School said, you should improve your productivity at least 43% if you use Gen AI properly. Okay, so I will start with Bill.
Just so I can remember the question.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be a little controversial. I think one of the difficulties with AI and thinking about what should be done, I think you're talking about just safeguarding AI. One of the difficulties is that, especially with things like ChatGPT, they're intended to be general purpose tools for intelligence. They're not intended to be something different than that. And so when you try to artificially put safety like barriers around something like ChatGPT, you're usually limiting its ability and putting artificial bias into it, actually. You're putting the bias in of whoever created the safety filter rather than letting the bias come from some other source. So typically when it comes to safety, most of the time you want to spend your time on the data side. Like when you trained the model in the first place, did your data represent what you actually wanted it to do? Unfortunately, a lot of the bigger companies are putting extra safety measures around the outside of it. And that's a bit tough because it essentially says that a company, and no offense to Google, I know you're in here, but a company like Google or Microsoft or somebody else get to decide for you what's safe or what's not safe, what's right or what's wrong. And I'm not suggesting that they're doing anything negative right now, but I'm saying that that's not really the way to do it. Doing that is a little like telling a fire not to be hot or the ocean not to be wet or something like that. Like this is the whole purpose. It's a language model that's intended to be general purpose. So. Again, I've lost the question, but but generally, there's not any. I guess what I'll stop in a second, but I'll say there's not an easy answer because we're talking about something that's probably about as soon to be as intelligent as you and me, and how do you put a cork in that? How do you stop that from being what it is? I don't think we have answers yet. I'll say that.
Okay, Steve.
Oh, okay. I think that there's a practical application of the technology that is very pervasive. I suggested in my last answer some ideas about that or some of the ways that I know it's being used. But there's also, I think, this notion that it takes a specific level of intelligence to actually use an AI. And I think that there is that piece, but I think there are companies, Helen, that are creating mechanisms or creating ways to actually commercially implement AI in a very effective way without developing high orders of internal expertise and awareness. I mean that in all sincerity. So to me, as simple as my mind works, it sort of falls into three categories. There's the technologists that are going deep and doing incredible things. I mean, just the stuff we saw about cancer research and so on, mind-blowing, just totally mind-blowing to me. And amazing, and it's all good, right? Then there's ChatGPT and the other tools that are, in my way of looking at them, pretty surface level. I mean, they're basically limited by the quality of the language model that they're pointed at. And if you know what you're asking and you know the integrity of the data model that you're using, you can probably use them practically and generate some good outcomes, right? But then there's everything else that exists in the enterprise. And I don't think it makes sense for organizations to make massive investments in developing internal competence and expertise around AI if there's companies that can generate tool sets that can help normalize that and bring sound implementation strategies to large pools of effective data. And so I see that as a third category of company.
Yeah, by the way, that's what I do with my startup.
Really?
Thank you, Steve. All right, Jose?
Sure, yes. Great question, by the way. So I believe the future of AI will very likely depend on hyper-focused and personalized models. I think it's extremely likely that within 5 years, we will each have our own personalized AI on our phone, which is unique to us and hopefully unfettered and inaccessible to others. And that one agent or that one model will help manage our lives, our communications, our finances, our relationships, and all matters. It will become also almost like a pseudo personality, a pseudo version, an AI version of ourselves. I suspect Apple, that's their vision, perhaps Meta. We're all working on these very, very small models that can live on a phone. So I do believe that's probably from a personal productivity, personal efficiency standpoint, very likely to happen. How that interacts with the AI systems at the enterprise level, I think will be a very interesting question, and it will further blend the personal with the professional, which I think we'll struggle with in general anyways, and AI systems will perhaps enhance that connectivity. Another point worth mentioning, I believe, is that specialized models that are very task-focused and task-specific, I think, will eventually, rule the day. I know there's a lot of talk about artificial general intelligence, but I don't know if that will be a massive game changer to humanity or to our own lives. I think what will be much more impactful are these very specialized, focused tools, AI-driven, that help with very specific tasks and operations. Last thing I will say regarding safety and such that you touched upon, I do believe there is a need for extremely strong regulation. I think California can, in fact, probably help set be a leader in this area. I don't think it should just be led by federal agencies or multinational agencies. I do think within 5 years there will be systems that are powerful enough to take control of nuclear power stations, take control of banks, take control of financial assets around the world without too much effort. And I believe teenagers will have the ability to control that. So there is a need for very, very strong regulation, which companies, me being an AI entrepreneur myself, I do believe at the end there is a conflict of interest for companies to self-regulate. So I would strongly encourage California leaders to consider further regulation along those dimensions in partnership with AI vendors in the space.
So Justin, if you could just summarize it based on what you're doing, because you are very focused on enterprise, what works, what doesn't work in today's landscape, and what do you look for in terms of the breakthroughs in the future with your investment decisions and your clients? Please.
Yeah, I'm going to say a couple of things. One is I want to relate and understand, Bill, what you're saying about trying to make the ocean not wet and all that kind of stuff. But I'm with you on that we need regulation, because I think we're already there. I think one of the existential threats that we have, frankly, is that even before we get to AGI, the general intelligence, we have enough right now with ChatGPT to have virtual boyfriends and girlfriends. And I'm not joking. I think it's an existential threat to our species. I really do. And I think without regulations that govern this, we've got, that's just one of the millions of problems. And I do think that hacking, right, it's an easy thing for AI to do. And so we have to be very careful about that. And the original question, if I understood you correctly, is if you're an enterprise, if you're a business, right, how do you go about getting the productivity gains, which I might question those percentages as of right now, but how do you go about getting productivity gains in a business, but safely, right? And so Slalom, we have 3,000 enterprise customers, right? Guess what they're asking every single day, right? That's exactly the question that they're asking. And so we have a whole, what we call POV, point of view, on all of that, right? So it begins with, and we have a whole thing, so I'm not going to go into it, but it's like you kind of need a group that's thinking about this, which you might call a center of excellence, and you got to think about, all right, what are the actual goals? Not just let's play around with this, right? But like, what's our business? How can this be applied? And then what kind of safety do we need around it? I'm going to plug another one of our portcos here, a local company called Add Value Machines, or AVM. What they do is they're exactly for this situation where if you're an enterprise and you want your HR department to be able to use ChatGPT, and you want your finance department to be able to use Gemini or what have you, right? But you need to make sure that your personal data, your company secrets or personnel files and things like that are not shared, right? So this is actually, think of it as like a landing pad and some sort of firewall interface between your company and these open LLMs or even internal ones. And what it does is when you say, hey, ChatGPT, write me an offer letter for this person which I want to hire, right? And what it does, it says like, we're not going to give OpenAI this person's personal information and how much we're paying him, so it redacts that and it converts that into a whatever general name and social security number, whatever. And then you still get the power of ChatGPT coming back, but you don't have any of the kinds of violations of PII stuff that enterprises and businesses really care about right now. So I encourage you to, if you're interested in that, we have a whole thing we're ready to present. I know that Malia is not here anymore. I almost got her badge. They almost gave me her badge. I said I was not elected for that position. But I was going to mention to her, we would actually be able to help, and Fiona, I'll direct this at you, we have we kick in dollars to do things for good, right? And we've helped governments, and when COVID was coming up, we'd be happy to help work on your website and have an AI sort of chatbot interface to be able to get people information, all that kind of stuff. I know just the person to connect you with. My good friend Randy Tan does this stuff with government all the time, so we'd be happy to help.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, I don't know how much more time we've got. I don't know how many. We have 10 minutes? Okay, so why don't we do this? I will ask each of you to kind of make a statement based on your experience about AI for this audience. Particularly, we have the state treasurer here. We have lots of people, with lots of influence in our society. So, take your stand and make your statement about the AI today for this audience. And then I will open up for questions from the audience. Who's ready? Go.
Yes, well, first of all, thank you for putting together this panel. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I'm glad we're all able to share our thoughts. So, a very, very important piece that we have found at BrightQuery in the AI systems we've built for ourselves and for statistical agencies is the need to have a human in the loop. It's extremely important. And what does that really mean? It could sometimes be a subject matter expert that is there to fine-tune, train, whatever you want to call it, have a human perspective to ensure that the system does not go off the rails, which they have a tendency to do. It's also important to have a human in the loop for safeguards, making sure there's only so much that the programming can build in terms of what's reasonable, what's respectable, what's legal, and so on. It's impossible for humans to evaluate every question and answer that an AI system generates, and that's a very, very big challenge that at my company we struggle with, and I believe a lot of AI systems out there struggle with. But the key message, at least from my standpoint, is that regardless of how good the engineers and the code is, I believe, at least in our lifetimes, there will always be the need for a human in the loop to keep an eye on these systems, and we should make sure that that remains so.
Thank you, Jose. Well put. Okay, Bill, before you make the final statement, I do want to bring up this history of, I've known him for 15 years, and in 2012, we traveled the world and introduced his first AI company to CEOs of public companies, and they look at us like, you're aliens, we don't need AI. And then years later, he worked closely with Tony Robbins and created the AI alter ego of Tony. So I would like your statement to be spicier than anybody else. Who knows what he's working on next?
That's not a problem. All right. So I'll respectfully disagree with my fellow panelists just a little bit to say I think that AI is moving faster than you think. Like if you're hearing the things that we're all saying up here, I get that I'm on one end of the spectrum I think very aggressively about it. But I'll tell you, systems are more capable than you think they are. They're able to do more than you think they are. And a lot of the talk about humans in a loop and that sort of thing is coming from the human side, meaning we're saying that because we want it, not because it's necessary. And so I don't know which way the world's going to go in the future. I don't know what we're going to all decide to do together. But in terms of what the technology is capable of, just don't fool yourself. It can operate on its own. The ability for it to do that is getting better and better. Our need to have humans in the loop is less and less. And I think one of the things to really sort of put in your mind as you think about what all that's going to mean is one of the big issues that we're going to see it later this year, we're going to see it more and more in the coming years, is about information and your ability to tell what information is real and what information is not real. And that's one of the big issues that I'm sure the state will be thinking about and lots of people are going to be thinking about. And I can tell you that I don't think anybody out there has an answer right now. I can tell you that AI systems can build videos that you can't tell whether they're real or not. They can take anybody in this room right now and make it seem like you said something that you never said. And that's today. That's with current technology. So just another thought to put in your head. AI is more powerful than you think it is. It's moving faster than you probably think it is. And it's time for us to start thinking a lot about how we even evaluate information because of that. There you go.
Okay, I think Steve is ready.
I am. I couldn't agree more with that statement, those statements. I think it's an exciting opportunity and a scary one at the same time. I think that I've recently had an opportunity to meet an individual who has been in the AI world longer than anyone else I know, and she did it in the military, and she's got information about things that we're able to do that no one here have any awareness of whatsoever that's coming out of the military complex. And it can be frightening from that perspective, but it's also very empowering from the counter to that. So I agree with you 100%. It's capable, much more capable than we even can imagine, okay? But I also think that there are technological solutions for a large portion, not 100%, but a large portion of the scary part, right? The scary part about, an AI can recreate any one of us and put it out there and say things that you didn't say. That kind of thing can be addressed with other technologies like blockchain. So if we can marry these things and move them forward so that we're able to see and make a distinction as humans, that's real, that's not real. This is true, that's not true, right? Then, those things are going to self-organize. I do think there's going to be a place for regulation for sure, but I don't think it necessarily means that it has to regulate every aspect of the technology. And I don't think you can. I think it's going to move faster than we can regulate. So I think responsible technologists who can incorporate the kinds of security and using other technologies and mechanisms to make sure that we don't create nightmare scenarios, I think that's the responsible way to deploy.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, close us out. Justin.
Yeah, I think Jose and I are on one side here. And look, so the point that I agree most about is that it's going to be very difficult to regulate. This is the problem. It's advancing so quickly. And right now, I think that OpenAI can detect 95% of DALL-E created images. I guess they look at the hands, right? But that's today. And in the future, and I mean, if you guys have seen, some of the Stable Diffusion stuff, it is freaking crazy how realistic it is, right? And there's going to be no difference between a photograph, a legit photograph, and something that Stable Diffusion creates. There's just going to be no difference. Some current examples, if you guys haven't seen Microsoft's, I don't know how to pronounce it, VASA, V-A-S-A, see it. It's mind-blowing, right? You take one two-dimensional picture and a voice track, and that person is giving a speech to that voice track so hyper-realistically. It's incredible. Also recently, I think it was Arizona's Secretary of State, they were doing training for poll workers, and it was like a 2-day, training and all this kind of stuff, and it was kicked off by the Secretary of State, who gave this video address and all this kind of stuff, and it was great. It was talking about it, the agenda, blah, 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 blah. And at the very end of the 2-day event, it was revealed that initial video was actually a deep fake, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we're working with. Everybody was fooled. 100% of the people were fooled there. They weren't told about it, right? So this is the kind of stuff that we have to deal with. Now, how do you regulate it? I'm not a politician. I don't know how to do that. So what I will say, though, but I think bright minds need to be thinking about this because it's really important. It has a real potential to mess with us, mess with democracy, mess with humanity, cause a lot of troubles, and there's just small bad actors can amplify their effect with this. That said, I want to offer some hope, and that is we are seeing real productivity gains in sort of these RAG models, sort of specialized instances of AI in business, and people are really harnessing it and making use of it in a safe way, in a way that's helping their business, helping humanity, helping their employees, generating new profits, and in a way that's net good for humanity. And I think there's a lot we can do there, and I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. I think the conclusion is with this, phenomenal panel, everybody should get involved, because if you let AI, move so fast and you're not paying attention, you're not, harness it and benefit from it, then, we'll be further behind. So I think that's a takeaway. Please, Fiona, your question.
Oh, for those of us who travel internationally, normally if I'm speaking to a Chinese audience, I have to have a translator, or I just speak English and half the room doesn't understand me, but I was doing simultaneous translation and it was coming up on the screen, in Chinese, which was amazing. So I think, for us that don't speak 6 languages like Dolph, this is going to be a game changer. We can go all over and talk.
Thank you.
Translating what you're actually saying.
Within 1 year, it'll be your face and your mouth saying it, translated into 6 different languages perfectly naturally.
Any questions from the audience?
Hi, I have one. It's really to do with the concentration of capital. 3 companies, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, have invested 2/3 of all of AI innovation. And there's basically, 6 to 8 same guys on all the boards of these companies. And it's a real concentration. So as someone who's an innovator in AI, I've been similarly working in the AI field really since about 2009, 10. It's very concerning, but also the ethics of AI in terms of the quality of the data set. Is it truly diverse? I mean, does it have women? Does it have minorities? Does it have, everybody in it? So I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that and what you would do to address it.
I can speak to that if you want a little bit. Yeah, these are the frontier models, right, that they're referred to. And it costs billions of dollars to make these frontier models. I do think that these major companies are doing their best to get a diversity of training material for it, but it's very difficult. And I'm sure you know about the issues that we're having with the New York Times suing OpenAI, right? Like, this has yet to be settled and figured out. Everybody needs to be made whole in this, and Reddit, the same thing, right? Like, OpenAI is trained on Reddit, and that's both good and bad, right? All these kinds of things. But the concentration is a serious concern, and I do think that government has a role to play in this, right? So look, I'm a capitalist. I'm a venture capitalist, right? Like, I do believe that capitalism is the best way to move resources to where they're needed most. However, it's not for all situations. When we have externalities like an oil well that's shared by 30 people and they all just race to the bottom, this is bad. Or there's a river running through a city and everybody's just incentivized to dump in it, right? That's where government needs to step in, because capitalism doesn't work. It fails in these kinds of problem sets, right? And so I think we have a situation here where the amount of money required in order to create a new frontier model is so large that governments do need to step in and help make it a fair and a level playing field. That said, with RAG models, you can do quite a bit. So if you've got a different spin on things and you want to make things that work better for this community, there is a technological way of helping that, but it still doesn't address the root cause. That's my 2 cents on it.
Okay, we have a question back here.
Hi. Hypothetically, can we still stop AI or regulate it? Whichever way you want. Yeah.
The question was, can we stop AI? Well, at the moment, we're all still in control, so I think the answer to that is yes. We've alluded to this idea that there may be systems coming that are autonomous. They operate on their own. They don't require humans in the loop. Who knows? Once we get to that point and there are more systems deployed that operate on their own and systems that can begin to learn on their own, things like that, we're in California. I don't need to tell people how Hollywood works and that sort of thing, but you can imagine. Yeah.
I don't think you can really stop it, seriously, because we're talking about things we know about, and I'm alluding to things that we don't know about, which are by far, decades ahead of what we know about. So I don't really think they're stopping it. I think your point is, I don't think we disagree as much as you think we do. I think that I'm saying there is a place for regulation. Finding that is going to be tricky, okay? But I also think there's technologies that we can use to leverage and protect ourselves a little bit from our own zealousness, I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it. So I don't think there's putting this genie back in the bottle, though.
And one comment I can add that perhaps relates to both questions is, let's not forget that all AI systems were built by humans and therefore reflect human biases, insecurities, problems, and such. Correct. And so there will be inherent bias. And to your point, most of these systems have been developed by, let's face it, probably less than 100 primarily male engineers in Northern California. And so there's going to be massive inherent bias in that. I don't think we should ask ourselves, should we stop it or enhance it? I think the right question should be, how do we assimilate it in our lives? That's the question.
That's a good point.
Okay, so I'd like to thank each of you taking the time, traveling here, speaking to the audience, and it's truly a pleasure having you today. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Jose. Thank you, Justin. Thank you.
Where we're going to discuss why have your startup in California. This will be led by Jason Gahari. He's the chairman of AG Global Capital, which assists companies with various challenges, including capital needs, growth strategies, IP, monetization, market expansion, as well as expertise in M&A, startup investment, real estate, infrastructure projects, commodities trade, and technology, aiming to guide companies towards successful and facilitate investments globally. We'll be bringing up Ahmed Mirza, who's an early stage investor with Techstars, as well as Sahid Mohammadi, Executive Vice President of Growth and Delivery at NISM.
Okay. I know it would be great if we stay together probably another, it's probably going to be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Then we can empty the room so they can set up the room for our gala. But we have an exciting participants in this panel, which I noticed there's a lot of, we have many startups actually that we can get some insight as to why to do that in California, and actually talk to some of the investors in California about that as well. So with that, I wanted to kind of ask you guys about, story of creation, how you guys started, and then ask you some specific questions as well. So Sajid, if you want to go ahead.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for hosting this wonderful event. And I appreciate the people here that are rallied till the end, almost the end.
Almost.
Yeah. So I'm with a company called NISM. We're a technology consulting firm. We specialize in kind of all things digital. So most of our clients are Fortune 100 to 500 type organizations, and we build their digital capabilities. And of course, increasingly, a lot of artificial intelligence capabilities. So why California? Why has that worked? On the one hand, it's a matter of pragmatism, and the other is it's where the market's at. We've heard a lot of great things today about how big of a market California is, how much economic activity there is here, and that has really been important for us in terms of driving our growth. So we've been around for 24 years, so we're not fresh out the gates, and we've seen a lot of success in California. We have globally about 2,000 people, but about 500 of those folks are here in California. So in terms of the pragmatic reason of being here, the founders are here. They were part of leading tech organizations in the late 90s and started up their new company here, actually in Brea, not too far from here. And over time, the reason that it's been really a great market for us is kind of threefold. One is the type of talent we can attract, right? So top tier talent, great universities, kind of the entire suite of reasons people have been talking about all afternoon, morning and afternoon. And the other is the type of clients that we get to work with. So even if our clients are not headquartered in California, their technology groups, at least the most innovative and cutting edge parts of their technology orgs, are usually here, right, in the Bay Area typically. So we're able to work with them on those types of initiatives, and it really helps us stay ahead and keep them ahead in terms of their business. The work we do for them is really trying to advance their differentiation in the market. And then the third big reason is the type of work we get to do, right? So being in California is very innovative, it's very cutting edge. So that really serves to both points 1 and 2 in terms of talent sourcing and client sourcing. So broadly speaking, that's why.
What are some of the services you guys do? Because you've been around for a long time, obviously. And how did AI actually change that?
Yeah, so a big part of our service offering is building these large custom applications, right? So let's say there's a retailer that has various parts of their e-commerce engine. We'll go in and build that, either a content system, a promotion system, all the hundreds of applications behind the scenes that go off when you are maybe buying a T-shirt online or what have you, or buying groceries that get delivered to your house. So for us, so we build that, we design those, we help them with their technology roadmap. All of these elements have a piece that has been impacted by artificial intelligence. So we are building more with AI tools. We're also solving for business use cases with AI, meaning marketing automation or in terms of search capabilities when you go onto a website, so on and so forth. So there's what's transformative about AI through a business lens, that it helps the top line, right? Is revenue generating, and it helps the bottom line, right? So it's helping with the profitability. So any business leader is looking at how we can leverage that in those two dynamic ways.
Anything that you think that the government can do to help for you to grow more in California?
Well, I think there's a whole lot that the government can certainly do. I think providing the scaffolding, right, for this type of an ecosystem. A lot of it was discussed earlier, and I think really it's building infrastructure, allowing for a way to create ethics, considerations and regulation around AI, but at the same time letting the technology evolve in ways that are going to be dynamic. I think one of the best things government can probably do is what many folks here are doing, getting smart on it and understanding how we can stay ahead of it, because, or at least on par with it, because it is obviously moving fast and it's transformative, right? Like the individual said, it's the genie's out of the bottle. So we need to embrace it in a way that's going to allow us to move ahead in faster ways.
Ahmad, going back to you, if you start a little about your company as well, and how you started.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Mirza. I am an investor at Techstars. For those of you not familiar, Techstars is the largest pre-seed investment firm in the world. We've invested in 4,000 companies worldwide and continue to increase our investments year over year. I kind of come at venture investing. I was a former founder. I've built 2 startups. Haven't had a big exit just yet, but I did have a soft landing with one. And then I was a venture builder for a number of years. My claim to fame is that I built 7 companies in the span of 3 years. Everything from SaaS, robotics, metaverse, when that was cool, to a bunch of other different applications. So I've seen, sort of all different parts of, the startup journey, what it takes to bring a product to market, and that's sort of what informs my, investment thesis and investment direction with Techstars.
What do you look for in this day and age, basically? What is the strategy based on the economy, both domestically as well as, what are you looking for as far as companies you want to invest in right now?
Yeah, for me, it really comes down to, I think, 2 simple things. First thing is, I really want to find companies and founders that are solving a real problem. A lot of times, we come across founders and startup companies that, think that they have a company and think that they're solving a need, but they haven't done enough work in terms of understanding the market, understanding the customers that they're selling into, really understanding all the different elements of that market, and crystallizing a very clear value proposition to their end user. So I'm trying to find actual businesses that are solving real problems, making things more efficient, removing fragmentation in the market. But yeah, so it starts with that, and then of course a big part of where I look at, which is the early stage of venture, where we don't have very much data, we don't have a lot of numbers to go off of. We're investing in the team, right? We're investing in people. We have to believe that it's, not only are they likable people, but also that they're the right team building something great in a great market.
And that was kind of my question as well. Are you looking at, because sometimes you look at a company and you say, okay, this is a really great product, but the management, really can't work with.
Yeah.
Is it the horse or the jockey that you kind of evaluate, and what is the strategy you look for?
Yeah, it goes in tandem, but for us, specifically at Techstars, we're investing in people. It's the earliest stage, the ideas, and we invest in post, sort of idea companies that have products in market that are generating some sort of revenue.
Proof of concept.
They have a proof of concept. They're already, getting that customer feedback to make the product better. But we want to make sure that the people behind it have some sort of either domain expertise, they have some experience in the marketplace, they're quick thinkers and quick movers. So many founders I meet are hesitant to take action and move the ball. A hallmark of a great founder, of a great entrepreneur, is the ability to assess the marketplace, make a decision, and get to that next decision point. So we look for sort of founders that are willing to move fast and get to that next step.
Are you more of a hands-on type of investor? Is it a more passive? Are you looking for board seats or?
Yeah, so luckily for us, no, we're not, I wouldn't call myself a vulture capitalist, which is, maybe in the public out there. No, so our terms are pretty standard. They're very founder friendly. We pride ourselves on working with founders, on being of service to them. It's pretty common, 6% stake that we take in each of our investments. We invest at the pre-seed stage, and no board seats. We just want to help founders with whatever traction that they can achieve in our accelerator program. So whether that's business development, whether that's investor introductions, whatever that may be, that's how we get hands-on.
And any industry specific, or are you agnostic, more opportunistic?
Yeah. So I invest in 48 companies a year. So I'm a very active investor. And I cover probably 4 or 5 different industries in general, but 2 that in particular that stick out. One being space. So I invest in aerospace and space companies. And then the second one being healthcare. So anything that's targeting enterprise healthcare between payers, providers, health systems as a whole, that's where my focus is largely.
Okay. And are you guys using your company as well for management or any complementary type businesses together or no?
M&I?
Yeah.
Well,
based on the SaaS proven concept
yeah.
that you guys use you as a technical advisor or something.
No, not formally.
He doesn't return my phone.
The vulture capitalist in him won't give me the equity I'm looking for. But no, but it's very helpful, right? So the type of model that Techstars have, and this is where I think it's really important to think through what kind of venture capital models a startup is going through, and if you're a startup, what types of terms you're getting. Because coming out of a Techstars, as we're looking at organizations, so we do invest in companies a little bit later on down the road, or we'll acquire companies that have come through programs like Techstars. It's important and attractive when an organization hasn't been completely diluted in terms of their cap table, and they have founders and investors that kind of understand that ecosystem really well. So from that standpoint, I think Techstars does a really great job.
And focus is California right now, or does it matter or from presence standpoint?
Yeah, so generally we take in founders from all around the world. What I will say though is that California, we ask them to move to California for the duration of the program. So we run an accelerator program, it's 13 weeks long. We tell, and coach startup founders how to build their startup. So we're bringing in, people from Google, we're bringing in people from other large, organizations, technology companies, really coaching them and giving that hands-on mentorship on how to build their companies the right way. So for the duration of the program, they move to California. And then what I would say is that a lot of them then stay in California because of the benefits. There's a large engineering and talent pool here, specifically in Southern California, but generally, broadly across the entire state. There's a lot of investment capital here. So I think it was mentioned earlier. For every $1 in the US that is fundraised or venture-backed, 50% of that, 50 cents of that, is in California. Yep. And for early stage company building, it is critical to be near pools of capital because that is what ignites the flame, right? Like you have to grow your company, you have to scale, especially if you're building a venture-backed business, and capital is a key part of that.
Plus you got the large economy here in California as audience.
Yeah, and I think there's also a lot of signaling and credentialing that happens, right? So if you're a startup from California, it becomes a part of your ethos as a company to be innovative and to be disruptive, and that has impacts when you're going to market in terms of how you focus on the customer, and also as you're trying to attract more talent, right? So for us, when we're attracting talent in Latin America, where we have a couple offices, or Asia, it makes a big difference that we're a California-based organization. On the other side of this, we're working with a lot of, as I said, large organizations in terms of them being our clients. And so just in terms of data points, organizations in 2024 that are innovative and looking ahead, again, a lot of these in California are investing somewhere between 2 to 5% of their project budgets on generative AI. So that's different than if you go into other markets where that number starts getting smaller, and they might still be in that phase of just skunkworks, POCs, really outside of the core. So I think these types of things are indicative of what type of value and innovation and ethos is brought into the mix when you're in this state.
It does. Do you guys also work, like we look at some of the tech transfer offices of different research universities like UCI and UCLA, UCSD. Have you worked with them as well, licensed some projects?
Yeah, so we don't license the technologies or the IP directly from those organizations, but a lot of times there are individuals, primarily students at those universities, that are looking to commercialize the IP. And the institutions themselves are actually looking for a way to commercialize it, and they bring together startup teams to do that. So we've invested in a few teams that went through UCI and their technology group. I'm still awaiting for one, being a UCLA alum, to get one from UCLA. Haven't found the right one just yet. And we have a few from the rest of the country as well.
Anything else, any other comment for the new startup individuals we have in the audience?
So I think what I'd say is, my team looked at 5,000 companies last year, all early stage, ranging obviously from various stages, some that were just a concept, just an idea, to others that had significant revenue. And out of the 5,000, I'd say probably 3,000, 4,000 of them were quote unquote AI. And I know that's the hot buzzword of the day. That's something that's top of mind for everyone. But the reality is that if you're going to pitch your company as an AI company, you need to understand whether or not you actually have real AI. A recommendation engine, a simple algorithm is not AI. And one of the jobs that I have to do as a VC is to discern and cut through the fluff of what's real, what's not. Is this transformational? Is this creating efficiencies? Is this making people better, faster, smarter? And that is part of the responsibility. It's also part of the work I do on a day-to-day basis, and trying to understand the landscape as it continues to emerge.
Solving a problem. Are they able to solve problems or not?
Exactly.
So, Sajid, how about yourself?
I say throw AI in everything, make them do hard work. Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes for businesses and governments as well, right? Don't do AI for the sake of putting AI on the pitch deck or to appease boards that you're focusing on AI. Find the business cases, the actual value opportunities, and pursue the technology for that reason. And there are plenty, as we were talking about earlier. So I think that's kind of the core fundamental. There's too many people going after AI just for the sake of going after AI.
Just because it's like a calculation. So the last 10 minutes, I wanted to see if anybody in the audience, you have some more comment, Per?
Yeah, I think that just kind of spurred a thought is, as AI gets more, popularized within the mainstream, one thing that's become easier for entrepreneurs is to ship and build product, right? So you can quickly build products, ship them to your customers, and try to get some feedback. What's becoming increasingly harder, for a venture-backed startup is getting repeatable distribution to your end user and your end customer. And understanding those dynamics, those metrics, I think are going to be key, for the next decade of startup building. Companies that solve that and figure that out are the ones that are going to win.
Sustainable winner. Exactly. So with that, if anybody has any questions, last 7-10 minutes. Oh, Amir, I think in the back.
Hi, Ahmad, how large is your VC? What's the assets under management?
Yeah, so we have our portfolio's value today is over $100 billion. We've invested in 4,000 companies worldwide, and we run about 50 programs a year. So we make anywhere from 300 to 500 investments worldwide.
I sit on the board of UCLA Anderson, and I seeded the accelerator fund over there, so we should talk. There's a lot of interesting VC opportunities out of that school.
Yeah, absolutely.
So someone this morning asked me about biotech. And a couple years ago, everyone was talking about biotech, right? And now nobody talks about biotech. So is it because everyone's investing in AI and they think it's a quick fix? Because obviously bio takes a long time to go through all the trials and approvals.
Yeah, I'd say, there are trends that kind of come and go. Biotech, I think, is so Southern California in particular has a very strong biotech presence. I haven't made any biotech investments. We don't typically look at biotech companies, only because you need to have tons of domain expertise to invest in those sort of moonshots. What I would say is that I think the investments have gone in. They're awaiting the time period to see how those are going to pan out. And then eventually, there will be another boom in a few years investing in new age biotech companies. But in particular, I think some areas in biotech, such as gene therapy, some of those areas are very top of mind.
I think it has to do with exit as well. Before we had exits going through a SPAC or other investment vehicles, going public. So when your exits are not there, the investors are not going to put the money into the opportunity. That's the problem too. It's bottom line is how am I going to get my money back? So.
Yeah, I think it goes to a pretty interesting point, though, that we had biotech, we had obviously blockchain, metaverse, crypto, all these things that were really large hype in the last few years, and some of it will pan out over some period of time, like biotech. But what makes AI a marked shift from all these other things is you can see the impact pretty fast, right? So an organization can have people deploying AI tools like in their software development cycle and pretty quickly start seeing 10% productivity increases, which is a big lift in a matter of, we're talking about 6 months or 12 months. So I think the fact that one of the reasons AI is so unique from everything else that's been happening, at least over the last 10 to 15 years, is the immediacy of the impact, and that's powerful.
To choose an investment, are you using any AI capability or?
So I'm not a 4,000 company investor, but when we are in my day-to-day work managing a digital focused firm, yeah, I'm using AI pretty frequently on a personal basis. And I think that is a really interesting point in that almost every people sometimes ask me, what percentage of organizations are adopting AI? And it's like, actually probably about 100%, because either you're doing it from a strategic lens, or definitely the people on the ground are using it day in and day out. So increasingly, the answer is an emphatic yes.
Yeah, I'd say for us, we've started deploying AI in our investment review process. But it's kind of in two parts. First, we assess and evaluate the investment on our own individually before employing any sort of artificial intelligence into the process. The reason being is that we're always worried about bias or any other sort of augmentation taking place into our thesis development and our thinking. The second part is one thing that AI can't do. So it's very great, it's programmatic, it can give you a computational score of an investment. But where I'm investing, where there's very few data points, I need to assess the team. And I need to understand who those people are. Are they the people that we want to back and invest? And AI is not good at that. And the only way we can do that is through, obviously, meetings, diligence, talking to the entire management team, talking to customers, understanding their sort of sales pipeline, things of that sort.
So I have a question. How do you source your deals? How do you keep a long-term view with your investment? There are lots of people are VCs, but more like a club. They follow each other. I'd like to see how you distinguish yourself and source your deals and make sure that you are investing for the return on the investment for the long run.
Wait, you're saying VCs don't do critical thinking? I'm joking. No, this is a big part of the problem in VC, which is the essence of what's known as quote unquote FOMO, the fear of missing out. So if there's a hot deal or hot startup that's about to that's going around raising investment capital, and they have a term sheet from, let's say, Sequoia Capital or one of the other leading investment firms, they can shop that around, and then other people will say, oh, well, if they're in, then guess what, I'm in. And this is a big problem in VC. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. This is part of our DNA, our psychology as humans. Social proofing is a big part of that. It's amplified in VC as it comes to investment dollars. The way we source our investments is that we host a bunch of community events throughout the US, and in particular in California. So my focus is in Southern California. I run 3 programs: healthcare, space, and LA. We do events at all the universities, or as many of them as we can get to. We just did an event yesterday in Pasadena targeting the NASA JPL folks, Caltech, Idea Lab. We're doing events, at UCLA, USC. We're on the ground, we're meeting founders and entrepreneurs where they are, building relationships, because that's what we believe will lead to outsized long-term returns.
And with that, just getting ready to empty the room. So
No, not yet. You actually got one more panel coming up here.
Oh.
Guys. So we're going to try to give them a little time.
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. So coming up here, we're going to talk about the future of international trade with Bob Spence. He's the chairman of the CIEDC. You're going to have to tell us what that means. By appointment of the U.S. Secretary of Commerce, which represents Inter-Asia Pacific, along with Mike Jacob. He's the president and general counsel of Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, and Dr. Dolph DeRoos, entertainer, book writer, Jaguar hawker, international trade expert, and speaker.
Do we have a method to the madness?
Well, I have a response to the introduction. I was introduced just now as an entertainer. That wasn't on the script. We sometimes get letters to my office saying, could you please send Dolphin to entertain us? And our response is, no, we're not an entertainer, But anyway, I'm happy that you're happy with it.
Shall I give it a go and we'll just go down the road here and see what happens?
Is there a moderator? I think you're the moderator.
There is. May I start? What the heck?
Absolutely.
Okay, so this is going to be radically different from what we've been hearing today on AI, and thank you all of you so much for staying as long as you have. But we're going to do a massive paradigm shift that has very little to do directly with AI, which is we're going to talk about a whirlwind. So in the world of international trade, we essentially understand there are flows of trade going back and forth, different directions, sort of like the trade winds going all around the world. But to talk about the future, we really have to think about projecting from where we were and where we are right now, which is these trade winds all around the world began to coalesce about over 50 years ago in 1972 when the Shanghai Communique was signed and China was open to the world. And it probably took nearly 20 years to discover that there were no longer trade winds per se. There was a cyclone, and the center of the cyclone was China. The entire world reindustrialized, making China the global epicenter of industrialization, which is the first time that has ever happened in the entire history of the entire world. Now here's the challenge for you. You have to not think about this as a positive event or a negative event, but just a reality. So where are we today? Today, we are in the process of seeing that cyclone twister radically slow down, and we have a global disbursement, which means we are now going through a second industrialization phenomenon in our lifetime where everyone's going away from China. Don't think positive or negative, just look at the facts. What does that mean? It means that the future of world trade will be volatile for the next 20 to 30 years, because that's how long it took us to get into this position. Let me give a couple of examples and give my cohorts some time to talk about some things. So, a company relocates from China to Malaysia. This is a real story. They're happy with the people in Malaysia, good workforce, got good roads, got good technology. But in China, their 77 suppliers were all in China, not in Malaysia. They only had 10. Now we have to figure out, where do we get the other 66? This phenomenon is happening as we speak around the world. Mexico, I think we all kind of know what's happening in Mexico with California and the United States. Try this one on. Morocco. The same phenomenon is occurring there. We don't even know where the next one will happen. Our company just did an analysis for some medical device company and discovered a lot of their suppliers, you're not going to believe it, they're in Costa Rica. Who would have thought? This is how the world is changing incredibly rapidly. What that ultimately means for supply chains is we talk about supply chain dysfunction in the pandemic. Supply chain dysfunction will be with us for decades.
I echo those sentiments entirely. Well said. No, it's true. And here's the thing. If the world didn't change, there'd be no role for any of us. We wouldn't have this conference. Because people could just do today what they did yesterday, and tomorrow would do what we did today, and it doesn't change. But there is change. And there are some people who embrace that and think, how can we benefit from this? Or more interestingly, how can we offer value to the world so much that they're willing to pay us a little bit? Because when you crack that nut, when you can offer more value than you charge, then you've got an unending stream of clients. Zig Ziglar said it very well. He said, you can get whatever you want in this world, so long as you help enough other people get what they want. And that's why I think the really important thing, and why what you say is so real, is there are three kinds of people. There are those who make things happen, there are those who watch things happen, and then there are a vast majority who wonder what happened. And you've got to decide which category you want to be in, because everything is a decision. A decision to come to this conference is a decision. If you didn't come, you decided not to come. A decision not to make things happen is a decision. And that's why when you wake up every morning, you've got to decide, are you going to have a good day or a bad day? Don't let the circumstances dictate whether you have a good day. Because you'll say, well, it wasn't a good day because it was raining. It wasn't a good day because there was traffic. It wasn't a good day because the cat kicked me or whatever. You've got to decide, it's going to be a great day. And I'm going to do great in this world. And people are going to want what I have to offer. And they will. You create your own reality in that way. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me just say, Dolph, you undersold yourself because that was entertaining. I appreciate that. Thank you. I think to Bob's point, we're living in a changing world of trade, and to bring that back to some of the themes of this conference with respect to California investment, Pacific Merchant Shipping Association, we represent U.S. West Coast trade interests, ocean carriers, marine terminal operators, and we live in a world in the United States where we don't operate on the same basis as our trading partners with respect to the development of the infrastructure that we need to actually facilitate trade. Most countries in the world look at trade and international consumption patterns, ports, marine terminals, ocean carriers as assets to be developed by a nation state. We look at those as components of an economy that's federalized, and we actually do not centralize our investment in that type of freight infrastructure. It's decentralized. So states are responsible for those types of assets primarily. They're not financed through the federal government. But that also means that in a state like California, we don't even have a state port authority like other states do. We actually decentralize it further. So we have local ports that are run by cities, and they're expected then to actually build the infrastructure we need to facilitate the type of investment that we want to see in terms of trade. And why is that relevant to Bob's point? When we look at all the infrastructure we have, specifically in California, the nation's largest trade gateway is in Southern California. It's the ports of LA and Long Beach. It's financed through revenue bonding, not through general taxes, because we don't have a federalized system for supporting that type of infrastructure. We don't have a state system for doing that either. It's all proprietary. It's you eat what you kill. That means we have revenue bonding that's based on leases. The leases are based on projections of trade. The projections of trade that build our infrastructure were based on a history of growth between 1990 and 2006 that in Southern California was about 3 times GDP growth per year. That's what we financed for. That's what we underwrote for. That's what we wrote long-term leases on. It's also how we regulated our projection for what we expected to occur in terms of congestion from trucks and things like that, but also air quality in terms of setting cost-benefit analysis for how much should we do, how fast, in terms of regulatory stuff. Outside of all the other components of trade inside the United States where we're losing market share in Southern California to competitors in Savannah, New York, and Houston, it's in the context that Bob was talking about, which is the slowing down of that overall growth. So where we were looking at the onset of all this new productivity from China and the Far East for many, many years, growing our trade at 3 times GDP. If you look at the World Bank projections for trade and projections for GDP for this year and next year and the year after, it's 1-to-1. GDP and total trade growth are almost exactly the same. So if you're building your infrastructure out based on revenue bonding as a country, which is what we do, you've already put yourself behind the 8 ball. You cannot grow faster than your profile for the revenue you need to underwrite your infrastructure. We're already not meeting those projections, and the place you see that the most is in Southern California. So that's a challenge for us moving forward, fitting our system into the components of the system that Bob was talking about.
So Mike, I don't know how I volunteered to be moderator. We're going to do round 2, and then we'll do questions, and we'll all get out of here. So now that you sort of have the scene set for you, let's look at some of the other dynamics of what we can anticipate will be happening in the future. And I'm staying with industrial relocation because I think that's something that's kind of easy for people to understand, envision, imagine what is happening. So, and the question is, where does California fit into all of this? There are 2 big winners, Mexico and Vietnam. Guess what they have? The same problems, interestingly enough. Neither of those countries have enough electricity or water to deal with what's already come, let alone what is coming. So it is inevitable that there will be other countries that will be playing in this game over time in North Africa, in South America, expansion of other activities in other parts of Southeast Asia. If anybody is wondering where the new epicenter is, it's somewhere in the South China Sea, all of those countries that touch it. That epicenter is not changing. That is the future of world trade in the next 20 to 30 years with no doubt whatsoever. Having said that, where it gets interesting is what are all of these production centers lacking? Innovation and technology, and we are having conversations every single day about these needs. Yes, we have the workers. Yes, we have some good industrial engineers. But there are all these other technologies that we don't have and we cannot advance and we can't do this and we can't do that without them, and it keeps coming back to us. So it's the technology transfer that is clearly the future engine of growth for California on a worldwide basis. And we have something else coming that we can only imagine what happened in China in the last 30 years. It's coming. It's already started. We haven't even imagined how massive the capital flow is going to be into this state. Off the charts. Don't think billions, think trillions.
Well said. When I try to relate what you've just said to my own experience, when I was a young engineering student, the coveted calculator of the day was made by Hewlett-Packard, right? Famous American company. They started manufacturing in Singapore for the very reasons that in more recent years we've gone to China. Cheaper labor, good quality workmanship. So I proudly owned Hewlett-Packard calculators with made in Singapore on them. But as Singapore gained an economic ability and they wanted to up-level their infrastructure, the manufacturing shifted And it went initially to China that had a vast resource of workers and technology that they imported. They never originated it, as you say. And now we're seeing disruptions there, and it's going to Malaysia and Vietnam and India and other places. So that's a live example of what's happening. But all along, the technology has come from the US with an emphasis, as we've heard from many speakers, from California. About 51% of the technology comes from one state. It's disproportionate to the population, it's disproportionate to the GDP, and it's to the credit of the state. But the fact remains that it's technology that's at the forefront, because as we give our manufacturing to other countries because they can do it better and cheaper, we can focus on the things that generate the ideas that create those technologies. That's why most of the massive companies, the Microsofts and the Apple and the Google, and you name them all, most of them, not all, there are a few big ones in China, but most of them are still based here in the US, and interestingly, most of those are still in California.
I think from our view of that, then, what does that mean for translation into the supply chain? How do you actually see that physical manifestation in the trade flows? We are not going to maintain a monopoly on the Far East trade, Trans-Pacific. So if you're looking at what we need to do in the future in terms of providing a fluid supply chain, a process for making sure that we're making efficient decisions, we're doing it in a way which is environmentally friendly, which means we're reducing Scope 3 emissions, we're maximizing our accommodation for ocean freight versus other types of transportation in terms of just GHG per ton mile. There's absolutely no question that ocean freight is going to be best for the environment long term. But it's not always going to be the best value proposition for the cargo. And the more it translates into high value commodities like tech, the less you're going to have a tolerance for sitting on a ship for 2 weeks. And you're going to want to move that product faster, you're going to want to move it better, and you're going to be less concerned with the day-to-day rate that you're looking at in the shipping lanes from an ocean carrier. And you're going to be more focused on what's the actual performance characteristic of delivery on time. You're going to care about performance because you have high value commodities. We're very good at building facilities for low value commodities in the world. We're not very good at delivering on the value proposition for delivering high tech, high value commodities. And so we've invested billions of dollars into systems that aren't going to reflect the value of the customer in the near future. And so there's going to be a lot of reckoning in the system about that, because those two things are going to be the imperative, right? Globally, how do you reduce emissions, which means you're moving away from high-speed travel, you're moving away from air freight. And at the same time, the commodities that are growing the fastest produce the most amount of economic value, and from a trade perspective, have the most in terms of the traditional reason why you do trade, right? Just very historically, some people are really good at producing some things, and other commodities are really great at being produced in other places, and that's why you have different value. It's just Daniel Ricardo from 200 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
Mike just gave you Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage in 1766, right. I think it was.
So that still exists, but the biggest comparative value is going to place a lot of different people in places where they have a lot of conflicting goals, a lot of conflicting priorities, and they will not reflect the infrastructure that actually support what we do. So we built 20th century infrastructure. We haven't paid for the 20th century infrastructure we're already using, and we're going to have 21st century problems. Just, I'll kick that off, and then I'll hand it back to Dolphin and Bob. But just in general, in the supply chain, we have very, very aggressive goals. There are no places in the world which are exhibiting higher levels of investment in clean technology, especially with respect to air quality, than Southern California. And the state of California itself is on the forefront of a lot of improvements with respect to environmental, and I'll give you a couple of examples. So in 2006, the state of California adopted a goods movement emission reduction plan. It's a $5 billion regulatory package where the state put up about $100 million over 10 years, and the rest of it was all funded by the private sector. Every single engine that touches a container at the ports of LA and Long Beach is subject to a new rule. So there's cleaner fuels for ships. When your ship's at berth, it has to plug in. Cargo handling equipment has to be best available control technology. The tugs that move the ships are all cleaner than anywhere else in the world. And trucking emissions from diesel in Southern California have been reduced 98% since 2006, and it's the cleanest trucking fleet in the country. We plug in more ships in Southern California than anywhere else in the world, and that's to address, again, 20th century pollution. That's NOx, SOx, and diesel particulate matter. Haven't even touched the carbon yet, because a lot of those solutions actually increase greenhouse gases. So the next phase is elevating those principles towards zero emissions, zero carbon. Those have to be global solutions, and they have to be national solutions because they're so expensive. You know, we're talking about doing all that for $5 billion over the last 18 years. Just the next phase of cargo handling equipment, we've estimated is about $30 billion just for LA and Long Beach. And the trucking infrastructure that you need to go to zero emissions after you've reduced the first 98% of emissions from DPM to get to zero for GHGs is orders of magnitude bigger, tens of billions of dollars. And you can't do those things when you're financing locally, and you can't do those things where you don't distort the marketplace because you have to compete with other people that in Savannah or Houston are not doing it. So from a national perspective, you have to do it, and then we have global assets that move these things. So the actual basis of having a global intermodal system that facilitated what Bob was talking about with the growth of China and other overseas things is that intermodalism means you can take that equipment, you can use it anywhere in the world. It's amazing. But to do that, you have to have international standards, and if you don't do that, then you're creating a lot of inefficiencies in the system. Some people are winners, some people are losers, and a GHG economy where you're actually talking about carbon, and carbon's a global pollutant. It doesn't have any local impact whatsoever. It's all cumulative. You have to be efficient about it. It has to be global. Otherwise, you create a lot of inefficiency, and you're not maximizing the total value of the system. You create displacement between competitors. So some countries would win, other countries would lose, and that is not what you want to do in international trade. You want it to actually be a level playing field so people can actually make the decisions that are best for everyone.
Well, just to add to that, sometimes there are international changes that take place that do all that you say. When they opened the Suez Canal, that changed the routes that vessels had to take. It reduced pollution, of course. Pollution wasn't on our minds back then. In 1956, they opened the Suez Canal. That again changed the shipping patterns for many companies, reduced fuel consumption. As you say, we've got much more efficient use of fuels, not just in trucks, 98% reduction, that's great, on vessels too. In the Netherlands, at the Marine Institute, we've been developing wind sails for large cargo ships, and you've all seen them. These are massive, big, hydraulically operated metal sails that reduce fuel consumption tremendously. There's talk of a new canal going through Nicaragua because one of the problems, or two problems with the Panama Canal, is there's now a backlog of vessels trying to get through. There's a waiting list, which is inefficient, and it causes more fuel consumption. And secondly, the vessels today are becoming so big, they no longer fit in the Panama Canal. Every 10 or 20 years, they have massive expenditure to increase the size of the locks. The Nicaraguan Canal, if it were to go ahead, would allow much bigger vessels to go through. So every now and then, there's a massive shift in how we see things. And I think part of the trick and what California is so good at is predicting what some of those changes are and making adjustments. There's talk, I don't know if it's popular right now, of having a bonded rail line from Long Beach into Nevada so that they can have a bigger bonded area and handle a bigger volume of cargo, because I understand there's a bottleneck there too. That's why some of it is going to the East Coast. So it takes bold initiative to make changes, to go into the future so that we future-proof our own society. I think it's great. Bob?
What's going on with the other ports that we're competing with in the United States?
Well, I'm really going to defer to Mike on that. However, I grew up in Savannah, Georgia, and no one on the face of the earth ever imagined Savannah, Georgia would be. I think it's number 4 in the nation today. So these shifts have already started to take place, and they're very dramatic.
Yeah. So I guess it's a complex question, and but the answers, unfortunately, are not less complex than the question. The shifts are happening for multiple reasons, and we have a situation on the U.S. West Coast where, in the last 18 years, the ports of LA and Long Beach have grown by a collective 27%. Oakland is actually decreased, and the Pacific Northwest and Seattle and Tacoma, they've actually decreased by over a quarter. Savannah has grown over 150%. West Coast Canada, about the same. Houston, you can just go down the line. Oakland used to be the 4th largest port about 20 years ago in the country by container volume. Now they're 10th. And Savannah was about 10th, and now they're 4th. Houston wasn't on the map. Now they are. And so there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is just diversification of cargo. Post 9/11 and then post 2005 when we had, 2002 when we had some labor issues here, cargo owners decided that they didn't want to have all of their trade in one basket. They started to diversify. It was called a four-corner strategy. We'll put a little bit in Southern California, some up in the PNW, some in New York, New Jersey, and some in the Southeast. Right? So that's natural, that diversification is going to occur. But what we found is while that was happening, we were still growing market share because we were still growing faster than the other competitors, even though we have higher base prices for labor and real estate and all that. But we have a business where we do everything in volume, right? We do economies of scale. So as long as our costs per unit are going down, we're still ahead of the curve. But once you start seeing what we saw, which was, then you have this diversification occur. After the Great Recession, everyone else started growing back. We didn't recapture our volumes. At the same time, we started layering on a lot of additional costs. Some of it's environmental, but not all of it. In any event, we're doing bad math on the US West Coast. We're increasing costs faster than we're increasing volume. So our cost per unit goes up. And then you have discretionary cargo. You know where that goes? Somewhere else, which means while you're increasing costs, the number of units you have goes down. So you're increasing cost per unit. And then you know what happens? Discretionary cargo leaves. So you're increasing your cost per unit. At the same time, everyone else is not doing the same thing we're doing. So while we were spending a lot of money to clean up emissions reductions, they don't have the same zeal for the environment some of our competitor states. And to put it mildly, they're actively marketing against us. They want our cargo. So it's imperative on us moving forward as we look at what the 21st century economy means, that we start capitalizing on our comparative advantage here. Look at things like Scope 3 emissions. When you ship through the US West Coast, that is actually a preferred alternative from a greenhouse gas perspective. Our customers, cargo owners, don't internalize that cost yet, but they will. And as that system for accounting starts improving, those are things where we need to start taking a more positive view at some of these cost centers that haven't been reflected in our rates and that our customers haven't had to be accounting for. Okay, so this is a good question for the rest of the room that didn't hear it. It was about a question of like, where do these things get sourced? US West Coast, we've taken for granted that we're the primary gateway for most Asian cargo, anything trans-Pacific. And about 10 years ago, we were doing about 2/3 of that cargo. Now it's 50-50. So Gulf and East Coast ports importing Chinese goods at the same rate as the US West Coast. So it isn't, we used to take it for granted. You cannot do that any longer. There's a 50-50 chance that if someone's coming from East Asia, it is not going through the US West Coast.
I think we'll call that a wrap here, but thank you, Dr. DeRoos, Mr. Spence, and Mr. Jacob. Everybody give them a round of applause. Put a special thanks to Dan and Ling Su for putting everything together here, as well as Treasurer Fiona Ma, Marcia Frost coming in today, as well as Senator Hertzberg and Controller Cohen's here, and all the expert panelists and brilliant companies shaping the future of California and our continued growth. And let's get those checkbooks out for all these other companies.